close the doors of your mind, close the gates of your mind, close the thought process of your lower self and your thought process in your inner being, your inner thoughts, from your left and your right ear, from your mouth to your nose, from all the things that's within yourself that gives openings, and even in your thought process and your conscience, even in the trauma that one has never dealt with within their life. It gives Satan access to your consciousness and your mind. And bring your mind to center and focus, and put away all thoughts that are grievous to you, that's in your heart and mind, and bring it to center and under the subjection of Yahushua Mashiach in the highest order, who sits in the highest Shamayim, above all Elohims and all gods and all rulers and kings and rulers and priests and pastors and teachers and evangelists and Nabi'im and mother, father, sister, and brother on earth. The one who sits above all gods and all beings and all creatures of the earth, all of Behemoth, all the birds of the oath, all the things that he made from the Yam and the sea, and all of the oceans and streams that he rules over, that he walks even on the wings of the wind. Yahuwah Elohim, with his Ben Yahusha sitting at his right hand, his open right hand. For he, Yahuwah, who holds the 7 stars in his right hand, the one who gives life and understanding to our inner man, our inner being, continually. When we walk by the way, when we lie down, we rise up. When we lie down, we go into the unconscious state, and then into the dream-like state, into the communication-like state, and determining what Yahuwah will have us to do when the sun rises. When the sun rises, one, it must rise, even as let the gates be open, that Yahuwah may dwell inside, that his words and the bar may dwell inside of your temple. So this yom, we acknowledge him, Yahuwah Elohim, the one who made all things, the one who made us, he created the Aydah in 6 days, and he rested the 7th. The one who teaches us to count the 7, knowing that the 7 jubilees and the 7 cycles, even the 7 periods and the seven weeks that we count before Shabua, even the 7 times a day you pray to Yahuwah, or to give praise to Yahuwah 7 times a day, knowing it's weekly, monthly, and yearly. And these things take place within our inner being and our inner thoughts, and we go through cycles even as the cells change every 7 years. So as we move forward in the love and compassion of Yahushua Mashiach. For Yahuwah was in the Son, reconciling the world to himself, that he may bring it back to the very good and very good that it was when he made it in the beginning. But man left their first nature and their first thought and their first mind and their first Elohim and exchanged it for another one. A second, third, fourth, the fifth, the sixth, seventh, the eighth, the ninth, 10th, 11th, and the 12th one. And taking over your 12 cranial nerves and your 12 melanin centers, and now one has to reclaim what was taken from you from birth. So as we move forward in kindness, we move forward in ahab, we move forward in joy, we move forward in kindness, love, patience, meekness, temperance, gentleness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. And we move forward in ahab and love. That's greater than all things. It's greater than everything. Right? So this is the book of 1 Corinthians. Right? They say Corinthians, chapter 13, verse 1. 1 Corinthians chapter 13, 1 Corinthians chapter 13 and verse 1. And it says, if I speak with Lashon or tongues of men or Anushim and of Malakim, but have not love, I am a noisy gong and a clanging cymbal. He said, I'm just like that. Ahaba. So if you don't have that, how are you going to live? How are you going to live? How are you going to live? Not only in this life, ahab, with the actual peace that you need, how are you going to live in the next life? Right? He said, how are you going to live in the next life? Why? Because you need love to do that. And in order for you to do that, in order for you to live with someone, you got to have it on the inside of your heart and your mind. Why? Because if you don't, then it becomes a situation where you haven't manifested the very thing, that attribute, the very great attribute of your father and mother in the highest Shamayim. So this is First John Aleph Yehukanan, or Akkad Yehukanan 4 and 7. 1 John 4 and 7. It's beloved, let us love one another. Why? Because Yahuwah is a love. He said, let us ahab one another, for love is from Elohim. That's how you know. It's from Yahuwah Elohim. And whoever loves has been born of Elohim and knows Elohim. So if you don't have no ahab in your heart, He said, you're not extended out from a father, an Abba, and a mother of love. Why? Anyone who does not love does not know Elohim, because Yahuwah Elohim is love. Elohim is love. He said that's what it is. He's love. In this, the love of Elohim has made manifest among us, that Elohim sent his only Son into the world to do what? So that we might live through him, through love. So we can know what Ahab is in the flesh. Because we ain't never, how you say, we ain't never seen, the love was lost a long time ago. Ahab was lost a long time ago. And he came to show us what Ahab is again. And it says, in this is love, that we have loved Elohim, but that he loved us and sent his Son to be the propitiation for our sins. Beloved, if Elohim so loved us, we ought to love one another. He said, you should do that. Why? Because without it, what's greater than that? You're nothing without it. No one has ever seen Elohim if we love. It says right here, it says verse 11, beloved, if Elohim so loved us, we also ought to love one another. No one has ever seen Elohim. If we love one another, Elohim abides in us. Inside of you, inside of your liver, your kidneys, inside of your heart, your left and right ventricle, inside of your throat, inside of your thought, part, your tongue. He's all. That's all you want to hear. That's all you want to know. That's all you want to encompass. Is Ahava. You want to have it in your hands and your feet. Why? Because love ain't gonna allow you to go places that is gonna cause somebody hurt. Loving is not gonna allow you to use something with your yard and your cough that's gonna cause somebody to fall, or so you can have some entertainment for your life, right? To do some evil to them, so you have some entertainment because you're wise to do evil. Love, Ahab, is not going to do that. No one has ever seen Elohim. If we love one another, Elohim abides in us, and his love is perfected in us, right? That's perfection. Like you want that to be perfected inside of you. Why? Perfection is what he said. Be ye therefore perfect, even as your Father in Shamayim is perfect. In Matthew 5:48. But if you don't have a Ahab on the inside and you're trying to be perfect with a love, then what happens with that? You're not going to be perfect. Verse 13, by this we know that we abide in him and he in us, because he has given us his Ruach. He gave us his Ruach. And verse what? And we have seen and testified that the Father has sent his Son to be Savior, or Yasha, of the world. Why? Because he is a lover of souls. He never hated anything he made. He's a lover of souls. He's always been that way. He's not a son of Balial. He don't create children of Balial. He don't create worthless people. And he say no value. He said, I redeemed you not with corruptible things, of silver and gold, with the precious blood. He said his precious dam. It's like he redeemed Adam from the ground. But all that's important. But we're going to get out of here. And we have seen and testified that the Father has sent his Son to be Savior of the world. Whosoever confesses Yahusha is the Son, whosoever confesses that Yahusha is the Son of Elohim, Elohim abides in him and he in Elohim. So how are you going to confess the Son of Yahusha? How are you going to confess the Son of Yahuwah? You got to have a love in your heart. Ahab, because he was love manifested right here on earth. Ahab is how you actually confess him in your heart. Love the good, Ahab. Hate the evil. But Ahab for the evil, that they may turn and do good and stop doing evil. And then once they do, your arms are extended, you have compassion in your heart, and you no longer walk in the darkness of errors. Verse 16, so we have come to know and believe that the love that Elohim has for us. Elohim is love. And whoever abides in love abides in Elohim. You say, I'm in love. You say, some people have never been in love before. Aha. Some have and have their heart broken. But he said, remember that feeling of love. Because when you remember that feeling and how you felt, because it's a love that can be felt. It's a light, a aura that can be felt. And when you feel it, it becomes addictive to where something you want it again. We're not talking about evil love. You can have love for something evil as well. And it says, Elohim is love. Whosoever abides in him abides in love, and Elohim abides in him. By this is love perfected with us, so that we may have confidence on the day of judgment. Right? Not evil confidence. Confidence to do evil. But he said, in order for you to have confidence on the day of judgment, you got to have aha, love in your heart. That's the only way. Because you don't have no aha and love in your heart, Yahuwah going to see it, because he is love. He said, I'm aha manifested in the flesh. How can I not see you? Because he is so, because as he is, so are we in the world. So you have to be that aha of love manifested in the flesh in this world presently now. And never, just like New Jerusalem, the new city, he said the city from above, Shamayim kingdom, nothing abominable or unclean or anything enter your body. Enter inside. Verse 18, there is no fear in love. So when you're in love, he said ain't no fear. Why? But perfect love casts out fear. Right? So he said perfect love casts out fear. Right? So how much love do you have on your heart? Right? How much aha do you have in your heart? Right? So this is the book of Luke. Right, so this is the book of Luke. Luke or Yah. Interesting. Luke chapter 8 and verse 9. Luke or Yah 8 and verse 9. It's the ESV. And it says, and when the disciples asked him what this parable meant, he said, to you it has been given to know the secrets of the Malkuth of Elohim. He said it's been given to you to know it. Believe, believeth, know. High, higher, highest. Right? It's believe, believeth, know. Hear, understand, total application. Hear, understand, total application. And it says, but for others, they are in parables. Why? Hear, understand, total application. It's in parables to them. So that seeing, they may not see. Hearing, they may not understand. Hear, understand, total application. Now the parable is this, the seed is the word. The seed is the word, the bar. So you can go through your life from birth to present, from when you first came in the world, and and you came out of your mother's matrix. What was the first word they spoke to you? Did they say shalom to you? Peace? Or did they say, oh, that's my baby? Your name, you see my baby right there? Did they say shalom to you? Peace? Why? Because when somebody says shalom to you when you come out, it's a little different world you've been born into when somebody say peace, rather than somebody saying other things out of their mouth. Where your father at? Where your mother at? Where your father at? We don't know. Right? Somebody, you come out of the womb and say shalom. Why? Because they understand to be born into peace is to leave in peace. Because as you came into the world, so you will leave. Because when you came into the world, you're supposed to be born in peace. Shalom. And when you leave, and imagine you came in naked, and you're supposed to come in with shalom. And then when you leave out of the world, it's peace, shalom. But when you were born into the world, you were born into chaos. You were born outside of shalom and peace. And therefore, in order for you to find peace again, you have to be born again in peace, in shalom. And then by the end of your life, you'll be able to be in peace. But it says the seed is the word, right? This is Psalm chapter 33. Tehillim chapter 33 and verse 1. Why? Because we look at we look at having a hob in our heart, but also we look to have that peace, shalom in our heart too. Right? So this is Psalms 33 and 1. Shout for joy, Simcha. It says, in Yahuwah, O you righteous. Praise benefits the upright. Halal. Why? Because praise does benefit the upright. Why? Because he said, offer the sacrifice of praise with the fruit of our lips. Offer our kidneys, our liver, offer our thought process, our mind and our thoughts, not with any defects or scurvy back or a hunchback or any type of evil favor in our inward man. For these things cannot enter the sanctuary of Yahuwah. So you think you're going to go in your inward man and have these things. I ain't talking about your outward man, because that stuff is perishing. In your inward man, right, when you get through the gates, through your unseen being, your nefesh, your ruach, the being that's on the inside of your body. The nefesh with the ruach on the inside. Right, and it says right here, verse 8, give thanks to Yahuwah with the lyre, and make melody with him with the harp and 10 strings. Sing to him a new song, play skillfully with the strings with a loud shouts, right, skipping down. Verse 6, by the bar of Yahuwah the Shamayim were made. So by the bar, by the word, Daleth Bith Rosh, the house was made in peace. Daleth Bith Rosh. As a matter of fact, Daleth Baith Rosh, right? The door, the house of the mind, right? The house, he say the door to the mind in the house, right? That's your body. That's what Rosh is. Rosh is your mind. The Baith is your house, your palace, your temple, your Mikdash, your Mikdash, and the Daleth is the door, the entranceway. By the word of Yahuwah, it was made. And it was made a certain way. And it says, the Shamayim were made, and by the breath of his mouth, all their hosts, right? By the breath, right? He said, why would he say by the breath, right? Psalms 33 and 6, that word for breath, because we know, but we're going to go through it again, right? Psalm 33 and 6, by the breath, that word is ruach. Right? By the ruach, it was made. It was made. And you know what happened when it was made? It was made a certain way. It was made a certain way, right? So this is the book of Psalms, Tehillim. The book of Psalms, Tehillim, chapter 37, Psalm 37 and 10. Tehillim 37 and 10. Actually, 37 and 1. It says, fret not that yourself because of evildoers, and be not envious of wrongdoers, because that's what happens. He said, don't even do that. Don't be envious of wrongdoers. For they will soon fade like the grass, right? He said, just like the grass goes from, like, when the sun goes up to its highest point to the longest day, if they don't have any nutrients in the ground, they don't have no water, they're going to eventually fade. And it says, and wither like the green herb. Why would it wither like the green herb? Why? Because it's going to eventually go away. Because these are all farming terms. Agriculture. Trust in Yahuwah and do good. Dwell in the land and befriend faithfulness. Why? Because that's one of the fruits of Ruach. He said you want some friends. He said, befriend faithfulness. Delight yourself in Yahuwah, and he will give you the desires of your heart. So what should be the desires of your heart? love. What should be the desires of your heart? Peace. You know, other people, the desires of people's heart, something totally different, something carnal. Usually it's something carnal. A hob in peace, you can't see it until you see it in people's behavior and how they look, how they speak, how they talk. That's how you know. That's what you should desire. A hob, love and peace. Why? Because I assure you, if you get a lot of riches, it ain't gonna mean nothing if you ain't got no hob and peace. I promise you that. If you ain't got no love and peace in your heart, you can have all the money in the world. You can have the nicest house. You can have a brand new car. You can have a car that floats, or the flying car that's gonna be hovering on the ground with jetpack engines. You can have all the things in the world. But if you ain't got no love and peace in your heart, I promise you, you ain't gonna feel great with it. It ain't gonna be the greatest thing. It's not. It's gonna be the most, they say, torment you ever have felt in your life. When you ain't got no hob and no joy, and no peace in your heart. Verse 5, commit your way to Yahuwah, trust in him, and he will act. Why would he say this? And he will what? He will act. Right? He will bring forth your righteousness as light. Who gonna do it? You? I'm gonna make myself light. He will bring forth your righteousness as light. As what? As your justice as a noonday. So he's talking about the sun, the natural sun. Because you know who brings that sun out every morning? Oh, you forgot. Yahuwah brings it out. So when he says Yahuwah gonna what? Yahuwah gonna make your light shine, your righteousness shine forth as light. Just like he makes the sun rise out of the portal. Or it's in the first portal, the third, fourth, or sixth portal. Depending on what transition times, he said, I'm going to do that for you. You're not going to do it. And guess what it says? And your justice as a noonday, just like the noontime when the sun is out, when the 12 rays of light, he says at its highest point, and it's shining on the rocks. And every single plant and herb in that vicinity is reaching for it because they're depending on it to grow. But when the sun is no longer shining anymore because Yahuwah don't want it to shine, you know what happens after that? He said then things start to wither away as grass and they no longer appear anymore. But that goes deeper than what you think, people think. We don't get into that. Verse 7, be still before Yahuwah and wait patiently for him. Fret not yourself over the one who prospers in the way. What he keeps saying this word fret, right? We talking about a fret on a guitar. You know how you put yourself on an acoustic or a 12-string, and it has a fret. Are we talking about that? Are we talking about that? Right. So that word for fret is kara. Kara. It means to glow, to grow warm. You know how you get angry over evildoers? He said, fret not yourself because of evildoers. He said to grow warm, to blaze, to anger. He said, don't get angry. And we talk about Yahuwah, he's compassionate, forgiving sins, transgressions, and iniquities. He's light, he's meek and mild, he's gentle, right? He desires people to change. He never hated anything he created. He said, and you know Yahuwah's anger doesn't burn always. He shows compassion eventually. He said, don't get angry. And jealousy, it also means jealousy, kara. It also means to burn and wax earnestly. Right? But he said, don't do that. Why? Because kara will cause you to lose focus. You know, it'll cause you to lose focus. That kara on the inside, it'll make you lose focus. It will. You lose focus on the vision, on the purpose. With your hands in your yard and your car, you start losing your purpose, and your peace and love will leave. But it says, he will bring forth to your righteousness as light, and as the noonday. Be still before Yahuwah and wait patiently for him. Fret, or I say kara, not yourself, or get angry, jealousy over what? The one who prospers in the way. Don't get angry and jealous over the one who prospers in the way. Qahalath. Over the man or woman who carries out evil devices. It doesn't matter, man, woman, or child. Your son and daughter. Your mother or your father. Your teacher or your pastor. Your mori or your person. Your leader, your husband, your wife. It doesn't matter. Why? Because what Yahuwah desires in man is steadfast love. Ahab. Because he is Ahab. And without Ahab and peace, what good is all of that? Over the man who carries out evil devices, even if they do all this, he said, don't even do it. Because remember, we talked about you got to say within yourself, just like in the book of Talim says, they're only flesh. And if you don't do that, then what happens? You're going to create more negativity, so you're going to create more things on top of it. And it becomes like your building blocks in your life. Refrain from anger and forsake wrath. Right? And we say all the time. We say it's easy to be honest. It's easy to do that. You know, some people say. If it was so easy, then how come it took Yahuwah to get Mashah to talk him down? If it was so easy, because it ain't. Because the office of a priest is hard, as the testament of Isaac says. Is it not? Broad is the way to structure, and hard is the way to life. These are the hard way. This is the hard way. The easy way is to keep being angry and wrath and go on 30, 20 years, 15 years, and hold even more. And that's the easy way. You know, if you say, I want the easy way out, that's the easy way out. Or run from your problems. That's the easy way. Refrain from anger and forsake wrath. Fret not yourself, or Qahalath, be jealous and envy. Anger, it tendeth only to evil. That's all it does. That's all it does. For the evildoers shall be cut off. They're gonna be cut off. Because Yahuwah says, I am the Elohim of Ahab and love. He said, he that does not love has not seen him or known him. Why would Yahuwah want in Jerusalem people who are corrupt? When you're angry at people who do evil, when you're jealous over people who do evil, when you have these things, why? How are you going to judge properly? And it says right here, but those who wait for Yahuwah shall inherit the land. He said, you're going to inherit the Jerusalem above. But guess what it says? And in just a little while, the wicked will be no more. Though you look carefully at his place. You know, people say Instagram, YouTube, cribs. Right? That's how people used to do it. Or like you drive by in a nice neighborhood, or you see somebody who's evil, but then they prospering, and you're just like, man, how is this even possible? I told you, if you don't have peace and love or have in your heart, all that stuff doesn't mean anything. It ain't the desires of your heart. That's the desires of your flesh. I assure you, the desires in your nefesh, your inward man, is peace and love and joy. I promise you that. The person on the outside wants all those things. And those things those things that you desire are the very things that can corrupt your mind. I assure you, if somebody go to a prison or a place where people locked up, I assure you, the very thing they crave inside of there is peace, love in their heart. Again. And joy, even if they're falsely in it and they're innocent. I assure you, anger and resentment and bitterness have entered their heart. And they have to war with that, even though they're innocent and they're in there. They got to war with it every day. And they got to think about the people who did it and falsely accuse them. I assure you, it's not going to be an easy task. And it's just like if those are free, who are able to walk amongst the living, amongst people, I'm sure it's not going to be easy for that person to deal with that when you've been falsely accused. People with hatred and jealousy and resentment and bitterness, it's going to run into your heart. And it's not going to be an easy task to fight it off. It ain't going to be easy. Because that's, how you say it? It's the hard way. The easy way out. There's an easy way out, but this is the hard way to deal with it. Right? Just a little while the wicked will be no more. Though you look carefully at his place, he will not be there. But the meek, shall inherit the land and shall inherit the earth and delight themselves in abundance of peace. Shalom, right? He said, so why would he say that? He said the meek, right? That word for meek is anu. Ayin, noon, woo. Amazingly, he start with an ayin, of course, because a breeze start with an ayin. A bod starts with an ayin. Even your eye, your ayin. He said, but the meek, the anu, shall inherit the land. So what do we think the meek is? Anu. It means depressed. In mind, gentle. Humble. They will inherit the what? He says, what do you mean they will inherit? They will inherit what? The arats, the land, the whole earth, the world. They will. But you gotta believe it though. That's why he said Yahuwah is love, ahab, and peace and shalom should reign inside of your heart. You gotta believe it. The anu, right, will inherit the aras. Anu, that's the ayin. Right? Ayin nun wu. So that means see life and be joined to it. That's what it means. Ayin means to see, experience, right? Watch. Nun means life, resprout, and the wu means to join, secured, joined and secured in seeing life, and that's only in anu. They say in what? Anu, right? It means what? To be meek, lowly, and gentle. That's the only way you're going to inherit the new place, New Jerusalem. He said, Yahuwah want you think about you bring these type of people into your Jerusalem, and you're in front of Yahuwah. How do you think Yahuwah gonna feel? Like, man, I'm gonna be able to humble, lowly. I'm gonna be able to instruct them in the way, the humble and meek and lowly, and I'm gonna be able to sing. They're gonna be joyful. Their mind is gonna be in a different place. They're not gonna be like wanting to overthrow me on the throne. You know, like who would be sitting on the throne, they'd be thinking like how they plot, and they're not gonna plot against me and try to take me down, like Satan on them. Right? They're not gonna do that. That's why he wants in his kingdom. People say, why he want that? They're gonna be having the showbread and doing the cakes, offerings every morning, evening. They're not gonna, well, there ain't gonna be no need for the sun, but it's still they're gonna be doing it continually, offering sacrifice of praise. Verse 12 says, the wicked plots against the righteous. This is why he don't want these people in his kingdom. He said, if I bring these other people in who are not this mindset in my life, or say in your life, you know, in your life, or in somebody in your life, in your being, in your thoughts, in your life, if you bring these people opposite of this in your life, do you know what's going to happen to you? The wicked plots against you. They're going to be plotting against you, scheming, and gnashes at him with his teeth. This is the other side of yourself. And we said we have different sides of ourselves. This is the other side of yourself. But Yahuwah laughs at the wicked, and Yahuwah just he's like, man, you sure could laugh at it. He's like, yeah. He just laughs. And you know why? Because it's a funny thing. For he sees that his day is coming. He's like, eventually, he said, eventually you're going to get it. He's like, yeah, you're only going to last for a certain period of time. He said, but I see their day is coming. The wicked draw the sword and bend their bow and bring down the poor and the needy to slay those who whose way is upright. Their sword shall enter their own heart, and their bow shall be broken. He said their sword, it's going to enter their own heart. Ain't that something? And you say, well, how are you going to know that? How are you going to know that? This is the book of Exodus, Shemuth. This is the book of Exodus, Shemuth, chapter 32 and verse 25. Everybody love to swing the sword. You know how I say, get that sword, right? You can use the sword of the Ruach, according to Ephesus. He said what they say is the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of Yahuwah. But you know, by the word of Yahuwah, the Shamayim were made. So Yahuwah made the Shamayim with a sword? Or did he make the Shamayim with a seed? Did he make it with a seed? Remember, the sword is made after things grow. But it has to start with a seed in order to grow for you to use a sword and start to prune and cut. If it hasn't even sprouted any leaves or it's just not getting small, why would you cut a tender plant? But people like cutting tender plants. But let's see what's going to happen to you. Right, this is Exodus chapter 32, verse 21. And Moshe said to Aaron, what did this people do to you that you have brought such a great sin upon them? And Harun said, let not your anger of my master burn hot. You know the people that they are evil, set on evil. That's why Yahuwah gonna laugh. You know how Yahuwah say, I laugh. You know how he laughs? He said, you know what they do. And this is what people are gonna say to Yahushua when he come back. Because we are, he said, we are like servants. And he says, for they said to me, make us gods who shall go before us. As for this Moshe, as for this Yahushua Mashiach, where he at? The man who brought us up out of the land of Mizraim, we do not know what has become of him. He's like, we don't know. What are you talking about? And he said, so I said to them, let anyone who have gold take it off, so that they gave it to me, and they threw it into the fire, and out came out a calf. They said, now it came out a calf. You know what happens after that? They threw in their gold and they put all their money together. You know how to say, let's make one purse. Let's put all our money together. And you know what happens after that? Usually, if things are not love and peace and lowly and humble and gentle, you know what's going to happen when you get that money? That finances, like they say. This is what's going to happen. You're going to build an idol. You're going to build an idol. That's what's going to happen. Because it happened before. You're going to build an idol. If it's not a hob and joy, a hob and peace, that's what he gave it to us for. And when Moshe saw the people had broken loose, for Aaron had let them break loose to derision for their enemies. You know what happened? Then Moshe stood in the gate of the camp and said, who is on Yahuwah's side? Come to me, all you sons of Louis, and gathered around him. And he said to them, thus says Yahuwah Elohim of Yasharal, put your sword on your side, each of you, and go to and fro from gate to gate throughout the camp, and each of you, it says, kill his brother and his companion and his neighbor. And the sons of Louis did according to the word of Moshe, and that day about 3,000 men of the people fell. So you see, in this situation, you see a bunch of people getting killed by literal swords. Because they worship idols. Literally. And what happened to these people? It says, and Moshe said, today you have been ordained for the service of Yahuwah, each one at the cost of his son and his brother, that he might bestow a barak unto you this day. Why? And it says, the next day Moshe said to the people, you have sinned a great sin, and now I will go up to Yahuwah. Perhaps he will make an atonement for your sin, right? So you see all this, but this is a point. Right, so this is the book of Psalms. The book of Psalms 40, I think it is 40. Book of Psalms, I think it's 40 something. Yeah. Psalms 44. Go to Tahalim, Psalms 44 and verse 1. Psalms 44 and 1. O Elohim, we have heard with our ears, our fathers have told us, what deed you performed in the days of old. You did with your own hand drove out the nations, but them you planted. He did what? He planted, just like a seed. You plant a seed in the ground, and then what happens? It grows. Right? But it said right here, you afflicted the peoples, but them you set free. You afflicted the peoples, but them you set free by planting them. But guess what happened? For not by their own sword did they win the land. You know how every man strap on his own sword and go through the camp and kill everybody. How, you think about it, how is that love and peace? Where's the love and peace in that? Where's the gentleness and lowliness in that? Where's the things that people are looking for? The desires of their heart. Where's that at? Nor did their own arm save them. Like they thinking like what they did was actually a barak for them, right? But it said, but your right hand and your arm in the light of your face. For you delighted in them. So how that was supposed to deliver them, but he said that wasn't what actually delivered them. Because after they slew all those people, they still went right back to sin. So all those people died for nothing. Verse 4 says, you are my king, O Elohim, ordained salvation for your code. Right, here we go. Through you we push down our foes. Through your name we tread down those who rise up against us. For not in my bow do I trust. Nor can my sword save me. As a matter of fact, it can't give you no barak either. What's going to save you from hatred and jealousy and envy and anger and wrath and being angry at evildoers? What's going to save you from that? The desires of your heart, the desire of your flesh, the love and peace, a heart and peace. That's how we're going to save you. But you have saved us from our foes and have put to shame those who hate us. In Elohim we have boasted continually, and we will give thanks to your name. Right? This is Isaiah chapter 9, verse 6. Isaiah 9 and 6. Isaiah 9 and 6. It says right here, for Elohim, for unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given. How is a son and a child is born into this world? Through a seed. Because the seed is the bond. It starts off as a seed. You don't cut a child when it first gets planted, and then when it come out, when it starts to grow, you don't start cutting the child and start cutting the child when it first get out of the womb. You don't do that. You don't take, I'm going to cut you, I'm going to get my sword. How old is that child? The child is supposed to be born in shalom, in peace. Because naked he came into the world, and he's supposed to be born in peace. And it says, a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulder. He said, but now you get born into the world. He said, you get born into the world again. You even born again, you get born into chaos. You get born into slander. Like he get all that immersion to you, who shall put him on, that you may have died and you may resurrect in newness of life. As you came in, you're supposed to come in it outside of that resurrection, that what it symbolizes in peace. But then you come into there, and the only thing you see is slander, gossip, hatred, jealousy, envy, strife, adultery, fornication, crude joking, evil joking, lying. So what type of water is that? What type of milk is that? Rivalries, conceitedness, pride, anger. And if you have this in your house or in your household or in a family, and guess what happens? And your child is born into that? Your son or daughter? Like, they ain't like Yahusha right here. For unto us a child, verse 9 and 6. For unto us a child is born, and unto us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulders. And he shall be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty Elohim, the Everlasting Father, the Prince, he say, the Nasi Nagi, or Sar of peace, of Shalom. Because that's why he's supposed to be born into the world. In peace. Of the increase of his government and peace, there shall be no end. So if there's no be no end of peace, and you're born into this world, there should be peace your whole lifetime. Shalom your whole lifetime. Think about your life. Were you born into shalom? You're supposed to be born in peace, that you may live out the rest of your life in peace. But you know what happened, people say? You know why people can't rest in peace? Like they say? It's because of the chaos that's all around. And then they want to plant you in that, and they say, have peace. Have shalom. There's no peace in there. Why? It says, of the increase of the government, there shall be in peace, there will be no end. Upon the throne of Dawid, and over his kingdom, to establish it and uphold it. In justice with righteousness, because what is righteousness? Righteousness is love, aha. It is peace. For this time forth and forever, the zeal of Yahuwah will do it, right? So all the support. Right, going over to the book of Psalms, back to Psalms again. The book of Psalms. The book of Psalms 37. Psalm 37. Going back to Talim 37. We're going to get out of here. We're going to the next thing. This is Psalm 37 and 1. Well, it's actually going back to Psalm 37 and 11. It says, but the meek shall inherit the land, Psalm 37:11, and delight themselves in abundance, or the meek shall inherit the Eud, Enu, right? Enu shall inherit Adas, the earth, and delight yourself in abundance of shalom. The wicked plot against the righteous and gnash at him with his teeth, right? That's what they do all day. But guess what happens? Going to verse 17, for the arm of the wicked shall be broken, but Yahuwah upholds the righteous. And going back to verse 14. Verse 14. The wicked draw the sword and bend their bow and bring down the poor and the needy, to slay those whose way is upright. Their sword shall enter their own heart and bring their bows, and their bows shall be broken. Why? Because they're opening their mouth and using their sword, and they're slaying the poor and the needy, and whose way is upright. To do what? Verse 16, better is the little that a righteous has than the abundance of many wicked. Why? Because you can make all your money and join one person, then make a calf. People say, oh, your song, you know, you sing a song that says a golden calf. I said, how can a song be a golden calf and nobody helped me do it? He said when you're at your last dime and you make the song with your last bit of money, You have nothing. And then you make it, and then they say it's a golden calf. How is that even possible? Right, and you can say, why do Yahuwah say, I stretched forth the Shaman alone, I did it all by myself? There was no Elohim with me. And you know what happened after that? What do Yahuwah say? I delight in steadfast love. And you know what the wicked do? They say, I ain't got to worry about it. They come and plot and scheme. That's what they do. It said the wicked, and it said right here, verse 15, their sword shall enter their own heart, and their bows shall be broken. Verse 16, better is the little that a righteous has than the abundance of many wicked. He said, a little bit that I have. He said, a little bit that you have. For the arm of the wicked shall be broken. And he said, it's going to be broken. But for Yahuwah upholds the righteous. Yahuwah knows the days of the blameless, and their heritage will remain forever. He said their heritage is going to remain forever. They are not put to shame in evil times. In the days of famine, they have abundance. He said they have abundance of what? He said, but the wicked will perish. The enemies of Yahuwah are like the glory of the pastures. They vanish like smoke. They vanish away. Because, you know, the pastures all have green in it. Right? It looks good, but eventually the grass is going to wither and everything going to be gone. So what type of abundance is he talking about in the days of famine? What type of abundance you going to have? Right? This is the book of Hosea. This is the book, I think it's the book of Hosea. The book of Hosea. Let's go to the book of Hosea chapter. Let's go to the book of Hosea chapter 4. Book of Hosea chapter 4, verse and 6. Hosea 4 and 6. Hosea 4 and 6. Hosea 4 and 6 says, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Because you have rejected knowledge, I will reject you from being Kahan to me. Since you have forgotten the Torah of your Elohim, and I will forget your children. He said, I'll forget your children. Why? When you forget the Torah of your Elohim, your children ain't going to be born in peace. They're gonna be born inheriting the things that you evil that you did. So therefore, when they get born into what? All that things that you created, they're gonna be born right into it. They ain't gonna be born no shalom. You ain't come in peace. And then you gotta fight, and then you gotta get born again and fight for your life to leave in peace. He said, I'll forget your children, right? This is Hosea or Amos 8. Let's go Amos 8 and 11. Amos 8 and 11. It says, behold, the days are coming, declares Yahuwah, that I will send a famine in the land. So, you know, the pastures are green. He said the wicked like the pastures in the field. It's nice and green and it look good too. Matter of fact, it look abundant. All the animals can eat. Everything's all great, right? He said, I was in a famine of land, not a famine of bread. Everything's green. Everything's all growing. Nor a thirst for water. And he said, you're going to barak your bread and your water? Your natural bread and water, right? It ain't going to be no more of that. But of hearing the words of Yahuwah, that's the abundance you're going to have. He said, the wicked like the wicked are like the pasture field. They're going to eventually fade away. It's going to eventually fade. But those who have all the understanding and the things that they have in their heart, he said, you're going to have abundance of knowledge and understanding in your heart. Why? Because you are anew. You are meek. Right? So this is the book of Matthew chapter 5 verse 1. Matthew chapter 5 verse 1. It says, seeing the crowds, he went up to the mountain, and when he sat down, his disciples came to him, and he opened his mouth and taught them, saying, Barak are the poor in Ruach, He said, but I'm poor and needy. Barak are the poor and ruach. He said, it's better as a little that a righteous man has than more that all the wicked have. They have a whole bunch of stuff. He said, Barak are the poor and ruach. Why? For there is the kingdom of Shamayim. Why? Because all that abundance that people had, they were pursuing all the abundance of the world. They were poor in ruach. They didn't have the hearing of the debar, so therefore they had a famine in their land, in their inward man. And being that famine increased on the inside, then guess what? Desert increased on the inside. And when desert increased on the inside, snakes, bugs, and bats take residence, and spiders, and venomous vipers, desert snakes, they take over. There's no vegetation, there's nothing growing. There's no trees, no fruit-bearing trees anymore. That's what happens when you have the debar flowing and your inward man. When there's not rivers of living water, he that believes on me, as the scripture said, I was bellies for rivers of living water. Why is he saying that? Because out of the mouth, out of the eater, comes life. You're gonna bring forth life. It's just like a seed being sown inside. For unto us a child is born, in you a child is born. Right? But it said right here. And he opened his mouth and taught them, saying, Barak are the poor in ruach, for theirs is the kingdom of Shamayim. Barak are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. Why? Because you are new, you're lowly, you're humble. You know what happens? You are meek, anew. You're a humble, meek person, lowly. You hunger and thirst, you have nothing. Barak are the meek, the anew, for they shall inherit the earth. Barak are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be satisfied. Not a famine of bread and natural food. Do you see Yahusha? Every man strap on his sword. This lowly and a new person who's repenting and falling on the ground. Strap on your sword and kill him, because he want to pray and repent and confess his sins. Strap on your sword. You know what? After you do that, get up and start mocking him and laughing at him. Go ahead and do that. You think those people are humble and meek and lowly? You think Yahuwah looking at you like you humble, meek, and lowly? This person confessing their sins, and the only thing you want to do is strap on your sword and try to kill him? How you think Yahuwah looking at them people? Barak are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be satisfied. Barak are the merciful, for they shall receive mercy. Barak are the pure in heart, tahor in leib, your makashbi, your imaginations, for they shall see Allahim. You say, you're going to be able to see it, because you know why? You're going to be a new. Because it start with an ayin. The only way you become pure in heart, you have to confess what you've done in your life. A new. Get what it says. That's the only way you're going to see it. That's the only way you're going to see what I'm saying. He said, Barak are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the sons of Allahim. Barak are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of Shamayim. Right? So all that's important, right? Right. So this is the book of. Proverbs chapter 15, verse 1. What are we talking about this? Proverbs chapter 15, mostly Proverbs 15:1. Proverbs 15:1. Keep this in your memory bank. A soft answer turns away wrath, but harsh words stirs up anger. That's what it does. The tongue of the wise commends knowledge. Not today. The tongue of the wise competes and tries to be better than somebody. That's what people do today. The tongue of the wise commends knowledge. Because my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. So in order being that they have lack of knowledge, you think wise people are going to commend knowledge? Or unwise people or people who lack knowledge, you think they're going to commend knowledge? No, they don't have it. They're not wise. So therefore, being that they're not wise, they're not going to commend any knowledge you have. They're going to pull out the sword and try to destroy you. But the mouths of fools pour out folly. That's all they're going to do. They're going to pour it out on you. And it's not going to be peace and love. Aha. And you knew. It's going to be other things. The eyes of Yahuwah are in every place, keeping watch on the eye, on the evil and the good, on the raw and the good. That's how he's doing. He in every place. I mean, no, you're not. Your body's a temple of Yahuwah, so he's looking at you. He's scanning your hands and your feet. He's scanning your mind. He says, you know what? I see something inside of you, and therefore I want to pull it out. And it's you lacking something, and that is love. Aha. And you have peace and not peace in your tongue. Shalom. It says, a gentle tongue is a tree of life. He said, that's how you, Hakma, wisdom. A gentle tongue is a tree of life. It is Hakma, wisdom. It is the very thing that you should guard. And you have to guard the way of the tree of life. Because the way of the tree of life is gentle. That's how you know you're operating and partaking and walking in the tree of life. To partake of it. Because you got to be gentle to take of it. Right there, Proverbs 15, Marshally Proverbs 15 and 4. Marshally Proverbs 15 and 4. Proverbs 15 and 4. Right. That word for gentle is marpeh. So now we talk about marpeh. It means a cure, deliverance, placidity, right? Medicine. It's a healing property. Your tongue needs to be healing. And that's the tree of life. Because he said the tree is supposed to be for what? In the midst of the garden, in the city, it was supposed to be for the healing of the nations, which leaves are supposed to be for the healing of the nations, which your gentle tongue is for the healing of the nations. That's how you're going to heal people. You're not going to heal people by give me another one. But perverseness in it breaks the ruach. That's what happens. He said when you have perverse in your tongue. So what do you mean by perverseness, right? So that word for perverseness is selef. Selef. It means distortion. That is viciousness, perverseness, right? It what? Viciousness. Like they had this thing wrestler called, he called him Sid Vicious. Or like these people, they have all these different names, and they be using these names. Man, it's entertainment, but he was like evil, right? He was mean, right? And then people were going, he just slam them across the room and throw them, or like he'll do something like body slam somebody and stuff, right? Right, but that's all a part of it. You're not saying that part of it, but I'm just saying that using an example, right? You just see these things in life. But it says right here, it means to be perverseness. It breaks the ruach. It's gonna break your back too. It's gonna break your spleen. It's gonna break your arm too. Now you see why when you would say, "I'm gonna break your arm," I'm gonna break the arm of the wicked. He's gonna send wicked people to break your arm. That's what he's gonna do. And sometimes he'll send things will happen to you. You be like, man, why does stuff happen? He said, but whosoever heeds reproof is prudent. In the house of the righteous, there is much treasure. That's why he said, and it's going to be in abundance. He said, in abundance for the humble, right? But trouble befalls the income of the wicked. Why? Because when you who will see you doing something, he said your revenues, the taboo, your income, produce, right? Your revenue, that was the fruit. It now be going into a famine because you have produce that comes from your body. Then you have produce, your fruits now become what? That's your revenue. That was revenue back back when fruits were growing, agriculture. Right, you go to a farmer's market and they got their agriculture and their fruits, and they're getting ready to sell it. But if it's not good summer fruit, if it's rotten fruit, I had cut a mango the other day, opened it up, and guess what was in it? It was black. It looked good on the outside too. It looked great. And you buy it, 2 for 20, 2 for 30, right? And you buy it and you eat it, and then you know what happens? You think that person that cut that fruit open and opened it, what do you think that person thinking? I ain't never buying from this person again, right? That's what you're thinking. What are they using to grow their food, right? And you start to understand why, he said, they're going to affect your revenue, right? Your tabua, right? That's what that word for revenue, tabua, it means income, your fruit, your produce, your fruit. It does. It affects your revenue. You be like, man, what just happened, right? And it says right here, but the trouble befalls the income of the wicked, right? The lips of the wise spreads knowledge. That's why he said, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. You're not going to be, hakam or hakma in your mouth. So therefore, you're not going to be able to heal nobody, to spread this healing throughout the world. A gentle tongue spreads healing throughout the world. Mark, hey, it do. Nor, it says, the tips of the wise spreads knowledge. The lips of the wise spread another language. Not so the hearts of fools. The sacrifice of the wicked is an abomination to Yahuwah. Now you see why Yahuwah say, okay, being that you are in this wicked state, he's saying now your sacrifices, we will offer a sacrifice of praise, halal is the fruit of our lips. Now it's abomination to Yahuwah, but the prayer of the upright is acceptable to him. We talked about last week about an acceptable prayer. We talked about when Esau, Asu, and Ha'abal, and then you had the man in the temple, one a tax collector, one was not. One was repenting than the other. And who was more justified? Right. So this is the book of Bereshith. The book of Bereshith. In Genesis chapter 29 and verse 19. Bereshith, Genesis 29 and 19. Laban said, it is better that I give her to you than I should give her to any other man. Stay with me. Why would Laban say that to him? He said, man, it's better for me to give it to you than any other man. Why would he say that? Why would he say that to him? You know why he said that to her? This is the book of Sirach. This is why he said that to her. This is why he said that to her. Right? So this is the book of Sirach. I believe it's chapter 7. Sirach chapter 7 and verse 25. Sirach 7:25 says, marry thy daughter, and so shalt thou have performed a weighty matter. But give her to a man of understanding. That's why he said, it's better for me to give it to you than any other man. Give her to a man of understanding. Because he said abundance and understanding. Why? Because a person who is a new, gentle, meek, and lowly, right? That's who Yahuwah going to instruct in the way. Matter of fact, it is also, he is a person that has not rejected knowledge. Not only that, this individual is wise. That's why he said that. But it said right here, verse 19, 29:19, Laban said to him, it is better that I give her to you than any other man. Right, going to verse 18. Your cold love her call, right? Because you can't join a marriage without love and healthy bodies. You can't join a marriage without a hug and your wounds healed. You can't do that. And your cold love recall. And he said, I will serve you 7 years for your younger daughter recall. And Laban said, it is better that I give her to you than I should give her to any other man. Why would I not give her to a man of understanding? Bina, Hakma, the Ab. You do it any other way, then what's going to happen to you? Your daughter going to be running right back, right? It says, and stay with me. He said, stay with me. So Yaakov served 7 years for recall, and they seemed to him but a few days because of the love he had for her. For that word for 29 and 20, Bereshit 20 and 29 and 20, Bereshit, Genesis 29 and 20. Bereshit 29 and 20, that word for love. That word for love is ahaba. Ahaba. Right, because you know ahab is what? You know how you know this? People say, how do you know something? I know this, right? Ahab is, because we know the ha at the end, which is behold light revealed, is the ending part of ahaba. Right, because that is the feminine nature. But ahab, the aleph, the ha, and the ba'ith is masculine. So you see aleph, ha, and ahab, and you see the masculine outweighs the feminine. Why? Because the man loved her much more than she did for him. Because Yahuwah is love. He said, for this we know that Yahuwah loved us, for he gave his only son. But we didn't love him the way how much he loved us, though. Right? And he had the ha at the end too. So we know the ha is, how you say, feminine, but ahab is the masculine. But we know that ha, he said aleph, ha, and ba'ith, behold the strength of the house. Behold light revealed is the strength of the house. Behold revealed. And now you know that shows you? That shows you the love that a man has for a woman, even though the woman don't love him more than he loved her. But it was just the love that he had for her that made it seem like it was but a short time. Even though it was 2 jubilees. It was a jubilee of time that allowed him to see the love that he had for her. And allowed it to continue. It was a whole jubilee of time. Can you imagine somebody loving you for a whole jubilee? You know, they took a whole jubilee from your life. And then somebody say, I love you just like a jubilee. I love you a whole jubilee. He said, you ever had somebody love you a whole jubilee? And then you find out he loved me that much, but I didn't love him like he loved me though. Then Yaakov said to Laban, give me my wife that I may go into her, for the time is completed, because the jubilee is now over. He said it's time for. He said the jubilee is now over. It's a year of release. And he said we're supposed to let everything go. Right? And just like how he said when the year of jubilee comes, we're supposed to forgive everybody their debt. So what do you think he's expecting right here? And he has a lot of love in his heart, because there ain't nothing wrong with that. Right? People say, oh, love, ahab, that's too much love. He's like, man, I have so much love for her, I will literally wait a whole jubilee. Because it happens in sevens. Right? So this is the book of Genesis, Bereshit 39:21. Book of Bereshit 39 and 19. As soon as his master heard the words that his wife spoke to him, this is the way your servant treated me. Right? You know how to say it. This is the way your servant treated me. Oh my gosh. His anger was kindled, and Yusuf's master took him and put him into prison because the woman lied. Oh my gosh, you see the way he treated you? You see the way he treated me? You know how people say it. That's the biggest thing. When you find yourself in a situation, all they gotta do is say, he treated me wrong. And you know what happens after that? Any man gonna be like, what? Are you serious? Right? It's gonna be immediate rescue, right? Even though it may be a lie. And Yusuf's master took him and put him in prison, the place where the king's prisoner was confined. And he was there in prison. But Yahuwah was with Yusuf and did what? And showed him steadfast love and gave him favor in the sight of the prison keepers. Why? Because they said, you have no idea how much Yahuwah loves you. For Yahuwah is love. He said, so when you get favor in your life, you be like, why do I have favor in my life now? Why did all this happen? Because Yahuwah is Ahab. He is love. He is love, Ahab. Right? Genesis 39:21, that word for love, right? That word for Genesis 39, Bereshith, Genesis 39:21. It says that word for love is kased, kasad. It is kindness, beauty, kindness, merciful. Because Barak is merciful, for they shall receive mercy. But he said he showed them kindness and love and peace. Right, so all this is a part of it. All right, so this is the book. This is Ode Shalom, Odes of Solomon. Ode Shalom, I think it's 22. Odes of Solomon. Yeah, go to 22 and get back. 22 and 1. Ode Shalom, 22 and 1. Let's go to chapter 11. Chapter 11. Yeah, chapter 11 and verse 11. And it says, and Yahuwah renewed me in his garment and possessed me by his light. And from above he gave me immortal rest. And I became like the land which blossoms and rejoices in its fruits. Why? Because when you have a pure abundance, when you have all that abundance, right, and the fruits grow, you know what happens? There's no famine. And by there being no famine, what happens to your heart and your mind? And Yahuwah is like the sun upon the face of the land. So he's just like how he said, I'm going to make your righteous shine as a light, as a noonday. I'm going to make it rise. He said, I'm going to do that. But his light is like the sun because it makes things grow. My eyes were enlightened and my face received the dew. He said it received the dew. And my breath was refreshed in the present fragrance of Yahuwah. And he took me to his paradise wherein is the wealth of Yahuwah's pleasure. And I contemplated blooming and fruit-bearing trees, and self-grown was their crown. Their branches were flourishing, and their fruits were shining. Their roots were from an immortal land. You know, immortal, for this immortal, that means something that is without end, a place you can't see. So where is the immortal land at? It's inside of you. That immortal land is inside of you. That's what the immortal land is. and a river of gladness was irrigating them. It's inside of you. A river of gladness, right? Right, so this is the book of Psalms chapter 1, Tehillim chapter 1, Psalms chapter 1 and verse 1. It says, Barak is the man who walks not in the counsel of the wicked. Why would you walk in the counsel of those wicked people we just read about? Why would you do that? It says, nor stand in the way of sinners, nor sit in the eat and seat of the scoffers. But his delight is in the Torah of Yahuwah. And in the Torah he meditate day and night. He is like a tree planted by streams of water, by rivers. And its fruits, and it yields fruit in its season. And its leaf does not wither. And all that he does, he prospers. That's what happens. But it says, going back to verse Aydah 11 and 17. Then I adorned Yahuwah because of his magnificence. And I said, Barak, O Yahuwah, are they who are planted in your land. And then we just read. He planted us. Because these are all farming terms. They planted us in his immortal land. Because you plant a seed. You don't get a sword and start slaying things without planting the seed and let it grow in order for you to start cutting. You gotta plant the seed. You know what happens after that? And it says, Then I adored Yahuwah because of his magnificence. Right? Actually, it says, verse 16, and a river of gladness was irrigating them, and the regions round about them in the land of eternal life. Then I adored Yahuwah because of his magnificence. And I said, Barak, O Yahuwah, are they who are planted in your land. He said, who are planted in your land. Why? And who have a place in your paradise, and who grow in the growth of your trees, and have passed from darkness into light. He said, Barak, are you? What do you mean pass from darkness into light? He said, pass from darkness into light. Because you go from a state of being in one set of mindset, Chag, to going into another place of light. And what is that? Behold, all of your labors are fair. He says, always fair, right? Now, are my ways equal and your ways unequal? But guess what? They who work good works. He said, Aydah, right? But it said right here, and turn from wickedness to your kindness. To your kindness. You say, why he say that? Because when you start turning to his kindness, it's a different type of kindness. I'm telling you. Right, here we go. This is the book of, because people say, why? This is his kindness, right? This is how you know his kindness, right? All right, so this is the book of Matthew, chapter 25 and verse 31. 25:31. And when the Son of Man comes in his kabod and all his malachim with him, then he will sit on the glorious throne. Before him will be gathered all nations, and he will separate the people one from another as a shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. Right? He just separates sheep from the goats. It's like a shepherd separates sheep from goats. He ain't saying that sheep and goats are, what people think. He's talking about a farming term that what people do on a daily basis. Just like a farmer separates sheep and goats. That's all you can compare it to. Why? And he will place the sheep on the right and the goats on the left. Then the king will say to those on the right, come, you who are Barak of my father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you, the immortal land. For you from the foundation of the world. I prepared a place for you. Aydah. Right? For I was hungry and you gave me food. I was thirsty, you gave me drink. I was a stranger and you welcomed me. I was naked and you clothed me. I was sick and you visited me. I was in prison and you came to me. Why do you think he went to Yusuf? He said, who turned from wickedness to Yahuwah's kindness. Why do you think he came to him? He showed him much, favor with the prison guard. Even after he was falsely accused, he said, I came in, I show you some kindness. You know why? He said, what is your kindness? Knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. How are you going to get the prison person to show kindness to Yusuf? Knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. That's how you know. Even after being falsely accused, everything happening, people throwing you in jail, saying all these things about you, you think that was the end of it? No, we read in Joseph and Asinall, they still were talking about it. Even after he got to the second in command, they still were talking about it. Man, he was the guy that stole in prison. He raped that woman in jail. He was falsely accused, right? They were still talking about it. But at the same time, knowledge, wisdom, understanding kept him in the way. Be not harmed with the art. And get what it said. Going back to Aydah 11 and 21. It says, for they turned away from themselves the bitterness of the trees. Right? When you go to Yahuwah's kindness, right? This is Aydah 11:21. For they turned away from themselves the bitterness of the trees when they were planted in your land. You know why? Because they said the bitterness of your trees. You know what happens when you turn away the bitterness of the trees? Right, this verse 22. And everyone was like your remnant. Why? Right, so this is the book of Ephesians, I think it is. Yeah. Book of Ephesians, chapter 4, and verse 30. Ephesians chapter 4, verse 30. It says, and do not grieve the Kudash Ruach of Elohim, by whom you are sealed to the day of redemption. Right? Let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor, right? That's why he told us not to be angry or karpa when you see certain things, evil behaviors, right? Let all bitterness and wrath and anger, because these are all part of it, and clamor and slander be put away from you with all malice. These are all the things you inherited when you go from wickedness to kindness. To go from from darkness to light. Darkness is putting away those things and going into light. His kindness, love, and peace. Ahav, Kasid, and Shalom. And Marpe, and gentleness in your tongue. It's Proverbs 15 and 4. 15 and 1. 15 and 4, right? All that's a part of it. Be kind. 32. Be kind to one another. Now you say slander one another. Gossip about one another. You know, look each other up online and find out where they live and do all types of things and say and make up stuff. No, that ain't what he said. He said, be kind. Tender-hearted. What do you mean tender? Love. Aha. What happens? Ahaba. Tender. I mean, you're real sensitive. You like the mimosa plant. And it says, forgiving one another as Elohim in Mashiach forgave you. Right? Oh, that's a part of it, right? Going to Psalm Aydah 11:21. For they turned away from themselves the bitterness of the trees. Right? You put it away. And they were planted in your land, your immortal land. And everyone was like your remnant. Blessed are the workers of your water. Of your what? Out of his belly shall flow the rivers of living water. Aydah. Marpe. They changed themselves over to love, peace, kindness, and gentleness. That's what's supposed to flow out of rivers of living water. That's life. Wickedness, you used to say he gonna draw his sword against the wicked. So if you're gonna do evil stuff, don't expect anything great. Your revenue gonna be affected. Your fruits are gonna be affected. But if you're planted in the immortal land, then your fruits will grow. Your fruits will grow. And it says, and the eternal memorial of your faithful servants. Your what? Your faithful servants. Indeed, there is much room in your paradise. People say, ain't no room, right? He said, there's much room in, how many people are doing love, peace, right? Gentleness, and shalom? How many people are doing that? He said, there's much room in paradise, and there is nothing in which is barren. Rejoice, O barren that beareth not. He said, you shouldn't be barren with no fruits. I have no fruits. He said, why are you barren? He said, nothing going to be barren and nothing going to miscarriage in the land. We talked about that. Why? Because that's all a part of it. But it says right here, but everything is filled with fruit. Oh, everything is filled with meat from the meat locker. You know, why is everything filled with fruits? Why is everything filled with fruit? This is Bereshit, Genesis chapter 1. Let's go to Aramaic Targums. Let's go to Aramaic Targums, right? Aramaic Targums, Jonathan. Aramaic Targums, Jonathan, Genesis chapter 1. In verse 29. It says, behold, Aramaic Targums, Jonathan 1:29. Elohim said, behold, I have given you every plant whose seed is sown that is upon the face of all the earth, and every unfruitful tree for the requirements of building and burning. Now you see why. He said unfruitful trees. He said everything in my land gonna be fruitful. It's gonna have fruits on it. It's gonna be filled with fruits. But he said if you ain't got no fruits, it's gonna be building and burning. That's the wicked tree. And every unfruitful tree for building and burning, and every tree on which there is fruit, whose seed is sown, shall be yours for food. But if you a wicked person and you just for building and burning, like you would say you're just structurally, you're for structure and you're for just burning to keep people warm. But for the fruitful trees, he said that's food. Right? And it says right here, whose seed is sown, ye shall be for food, to every beast of the earth, and to every bird of the Shamaim, and to everything that creeps on the earth, to which there is breath of life, I have given every green plant. And it was so. And all him saw that he had all he had made, and behold, it was Meotol, it was very good, and there was evening, and there was morning. Shishiyum. Right, going back to ODE Shalom 11:20-23. Indeed, there is much room in paradise, and there is nothing in which is barren, but everything is filled with fruit. Praise be to you, Elohim, the delight of paradise forever. He said everything is filled with fruit. Why? Because kindness and love is there, right? And it's all a part of it. He said, so why are we saying that? Because all that's a part of it. Right, so this is the book of so this is the book of Romans chapter 3. Romans chapter 3 in verse 9. Romans chapter 3 verse 9. It says, what then? Are we the Yahudim any better off? Not at all. For we all have already charged that all, both Yahudim and Greek, are all under sin. As it's written, none are righteous, no, not one. He said everybody's sinner. But he's going to instruct the sinner in the way. So if you ain't a sinner, or you ain't humble and lowly, and you ain't contrite in heart, so therefore, how are you being instructed in the way? Because he said the Ruach of Truth going to lead you into all truth and show you things to come. He's going to lead you to certain things. What do you think the Ruach of truth gonna lead you to? Bitterness, hatred, jealousy, envy, strife, complaining, pride, arrogance, hatred, evil joking, evil laughing, mocking. You think that's where it's gonna lead you to? No. Ruach of truth gonna lead you to meekness, lowliness, kindness, love. Matter of fact, it's gonna lead you to gentle tongue. Matter of fact, it's gonna lead you to a certain place that you need to go. And you need to be like. It says, then, what then? Are we the Yahudim any better off? Not at all. For we have already charged that all, both Yahudim and Greeks, and all people, and Ashur, and Arabian, Cretes, and all the people of the world are all under sin. None is righteous, no, not one. No one understands. No one seeks Elohim. So, he said no one does. It says, all have turned aside together, they have become worthless. They all sons of Belial. Everybody. You know how they say sons and daughters of Belial. You know what the woman said when she came to Eli? He said, why are you moving your... She was moving her lips, she was praying, but she wasn't saying anything. He said, so get rid of your drunkenness, right? He said, get rid of that alcohol, right? Your strong drink. He said, no. Don't confuse me with the daughters of Belial. In book of Shabua, in Samuel, 1 Samuel. He said, don't confuse me with them daughters. And get what it says. All who have turned aside together, they have become worthless. No one does good, not even one. Their throat is an open grave. You mean open grave? He said all they do is their throat. They utter out things that out of their mouth. It ain't living water. It's not kindness. It's not love. Ahab. It ain't Kasid. It ain't Ahab. It ain't Marpeh. It ain't Einu. It ain't humble and lowly and gentle. It is what? Their throat is an open grave. It's death. They use their tongues to deceive. Their language, their lashon is not gentle. The venom of asp is under their lips. Why would he say that? It's like a serpent bit you. It's a snake. It's poison. People love poison trees. He says that's why you say hard is the way to life. Because people love poison trees. People say, how you know a poison tree? You know how you know a poison tree? This is Romans chapter 1, verse 1. This is how you know a poison tree. This is 126. Actually 128. And since they did not see fit to acknowledge Elohim gave them up to a debased mind. They were filled with all manner of unrighteousness, evil, covenant. It's a poison tree. Malice. Or you've been bit. Full of envy, murder, strife, maliciousness. They gossip, slanders, haters of Elohim, insolent, haughty, boastful, inventors of evil, disobedient to parent, foolish faithfulness, heartless, ruthless. Though they know Elohim's righteous decree, and those who practice this thing deserve to die. These are all the things you're going to draw his sword after. Not only do them, but have approval to those who practice them. And that's the whole point. Because you say everything that we do is all important, right? So this is I say more love, right? So this is the last couple things we finished, right? The last couple things. So this is the book of, right, so this is the book of, on the book of Psalms, chapter 80. Psalm chapter 80. Let me show you in the 80s. Psalms Tahalim, chapter 80. Psalm chapter 85. Tahalim, actually 85. Psalms 85 and 1. Tahalim 85 and 1. Yahuwah, you are favorable in your adat, your earth, your land. You restored the fortunes of your code. You forgave the iniquity of your people. Why? Because that's what he told us to do. He said, I forgave him. Why do you think he said that? Because when Yahushua was on totality, and they were all mocking him, the chief elders and the priests, and all the people sitting there watching him, and he caught them in the night watch, and he said he gave him Barak anyway. He said, forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. Forgive them, Yahuwah, for they know not what they do. He forgave everybody. You cover all their sin. He covered it with a garment of righteousness. You know what happened? You withdrew all your wrath and turned from your hot anger. Isn't that what he told us to do? He said, be not angry at evildoers. He said, man, I don't want to do that. He said, man, you got to remember they only flesh. He said, I got to do it. Both male and female. It doesn't matter who you are. You got to do it. If you're saying you in Yahuwah's image and likeness. And he says, you turn from your hot anger. He said, you are hot. He said, Yahuwah top. He said, angry. He said, that's when Yahuwah gets upset. When you get upset. You see how you get upset. Off. So you think about Yahuwah. Because he got that same drive, especially when somebody does evil, he got that same drive within himself to do the same reaction. But he said, don't do it. But it said right here, restore us again, O Elohim of our salvation, and put away your indignation toward us. And here's what it says. Will you be angry with us forever? Well, you think Yahuwah going to be angry forever? No. He's not like us. Will you prolong your anger to all generations? He said, will you take it from another generation to another generation? Will you do it? Will you not revive us again? That your people may rejoice in you? Show us your steadfast love, O Yahuwah, right? Because that's what he has. And that's what you got to do. You got to show your steadfast love. Because Yahuwah is love. Ahab. So you got to show your Ahab, your Ahaba, your steadfast love. You think about your code. He had to love her for 7 years without, think about that. And it seemed like days. And his love, Ahab, was steadfast toward him. He wasn't even married to her. He wasn't even married to her, and his love, his Ahab, was steadfast toward her. Because he knew he had to labor and he had to get, he had to acquire a lot in order for him. Then you got think about if you went 7 years Ahab loving a woman that you're not married to, and in those 7 years, a whole jubilee, you acquire wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. And your steadfast Ahab is toward that, and commitment is toward that person. What type of love you think that is? People say, I ain't never seen no love like that. And I said, I guess you never seen somebody love you before. You know what he said? Show us your steadfast love, O Yahuwah, and grant us your salvation. He said, what happens after 7 years? Year of Jubilee. He forgave all your iniquity, all your debts. That's what happens. That's how you're going to show it. 7 years, how you say, 7 years, can you last 7 years of love? How you say 7 years of Ahava? Can you do it? Show us your steadfast love. Can you do it for 7? Can you do it for a whole Jubilee? Some people can't even last a Jubilee. He said, how can you steal Ahab and love? Because that's what everybody want to see when they do evil. You know what people want to do? You know, the same thing you see right here with David in Psalms 85. You see him calling out Yahuwah, though they did evil and wickedness, and they hate him in their heart. The evil people are calling out to the righteous Yahuwah, the one who got steadfast love, gentleness, meekness, you know, Aydah, Ayud, right? Ayud, right? Anud, Ayunu, right? Humble, meek, right? Turah, right? Put away your anger. Matter of fact, he also tells them to show Kasi, your kindness. Show your Ahab, your Ahaba, like you say you are. That's what evil people want. Show us your heart. Show us your love like you say you have. Right? You got to show people. He's like, you got to show it. Even though we did evil to you, I want you to show it to me. And that's what people do. Amazingly, this is what they do to Yahuwah. And if you say, now you see why Yahuwah say, you got to do what I do. Because when people do evil to you, they expecting you to show them some mercy and kindness like I did for you. And if you don't do it, then they say, ha ha ha, you're not who you say you are. You don't got that love in your heart like you do. You a liar, right? That's what they gonna say. You a liar. You ain't got no love. You ain't got no kindness. You don't love. You ain't got it. You ain't got no kindness. That's what they people gonna do. Because the man guy had to do it. He's like, yeah, we know we did evil. We know we wrong, but you gonna have to show us that you all this love and this kindness and all this stuff you be talking about. You gonna have to show it. I know it sounds crazy. All this love and kindness and gentleness and lowliness and all this stuff that you be talking about all the time. That's your mouth talking. We did all that love, all this evil we did. Where all that forgiveness at now, right? And that's how David and them looking at it. Remember your steadfast love and your indignation. Turn away your anger from us, please, right? That's what we do. And amazingly, that's what people do in real life. Especially when you start boasting that you're in the image and likeness of Yahuwah. And you start talking like you are. It says, oh Yahuwah, grant us your salvation. Let me hear what Elohim Yahuwah will speak. And now they want to say, let us hear what you got to say, right? We want to hear it. For he will speak peace, He will speak peace. Shalom. To his people, to his Kadashim. You know what happens after that? He said, we done did evil. You know what happened? We did all that. Now we want you to show it and speak some peace to us. But you know what happens after that? But let them not turn back to follow. Because you know what's going to happen after that. And so now you telling me to prove my love for you. After you did all that evil, now you want me to show you kindness, gentleness, meekness, lowliness. You want me to show you the Aydah that I talk about. You want me to show you the love that I talk about. You want me to show the Qahalath that I talk about, the kindness. Now, if you go back to folly, you know what happens? Because after somebody does that for you, after you do evil and they show that to you, don't go back to folly. Don't go back to doing evil again. Somebody show that much kindness and love for you, he said, don't do that again. Somebody offer you forgiveness after you do evil, don't go back to that again. Don't go back to folly again. Right? Don't do that. Somebody show you kindness and love and say peace to you, and then you go back doing evil, don't do that again. The only thing you're going to do is rekindle the very thing that you asked them to prove, and then they prove it, and then guess what? Now you're testing a person's patience, right? And that becomes evil. Verse 9 says, surely his salvation is near to those who fear him. It's near, man. It's real near. The kabod, the glory, that glory may dwell in our land, in the immortal land. Steadfast love and faithfulness meet. Say what? Steadfast ahab. So how are you going to build this without love? You got to have ahab. Love, ahaba. Steadfast love and faithfulness meet. Righteousness and peace kiss each other. Say what? Steadfast love and faithfulness meet. That's the only way. That's how you know. He says, your love, ahab, steadfast. Is it faithfulness? Those are the people that's going to meet. That's how you're going to meet. Righteousness and peace kiss each other. When you got righteousness and you got peace, that's why you need peace and love. You got to have peace and love. Aha. That's the only way things are going to work. How else are you going to be joined to each other? You gotta have peace, and you gotta have love, and you gotta have faithfulness and righteousness. That's the only way you're gonna what? Right? So that book of Psalms 85 and 10. Psalms 85 and 10. Psalms Tahalim 85 and 10. That word for Psalms 85 and 10. Let me get over there. Psalms 85 and 10. Right, so that word for it says Qasid. So that word for it says when it says steadfast love and faithfulness meet, right? So that word for steadfast love, steadfast kindness is Qasid. Steadfast kindness and amath and truth, right? That's what the word for faithfulness is, amath. Steadfast kindness and truth meet together, or pagash, or concur, right? It's pagash. It means come into contact. Steadfast kindness and truth come into contact with each other. And righteousness, sadiq, and peace, shalom, have kissed each other. That word for kiss is nashak. It means to fastening up, to kiss, to touch, to equip. It equips. Righteousness and peace equips. It allows one to touch it. It kisses together. You know how two people, righteousness and peace kisses each other. So that's the only way that's the only way that should even be instigated. Righteousness and peace. And then what happens after that? Kindness and truth meet together. So if you have kindness and truth in your heart, you meet together. And then righteousness and what? Righteousness and shalom, you kiss each other. You touch each other. That's the only way things will be joined properly, right? So this is the book of, and you know the sad part? And it says right here, verse 11 says, faithfulness springs up from the ground. What happens when faithfulness springs up from the ground? It's like some people having a child. If truth and kindness meet together, and righteousness and peace kiss each other, what type of child are you going to spring from the ground, or you say from the womb of a woman? From the immortal land. That child is going to be produced. It's going to be produced from the immortal land. Faithfulness springs up from the ground, and righteousness looks down from the sky. Say what? Faithfulness springs up from the ground, and righteousness looks down from the sky. Just like you're looking at your garden bed and you look down to plant your seed. That's how you know the earth is flat. Now, we talked about this before, but during we talking about they say law and pluck up what is planted, but at the same time, that's how you know it. Righteousness look down from the sky. When you plant a seed in the ground, if you ever plant it, when you look down and you plant it in the ground. And he said, in my immortal land. So what do you think this is? What do you think you're living at? Yes, Yahuwah will give what is good to our land. It says, and will yield its increase. It's going to do what? It's just farming terms. It's the very same thing. He's going to plant it, and it's going to yield, because you know why? It meets in righteousness, it meets in kindness and truth. And you know what else it does? It kisses in righteousness and peace and shalom. Sadiq and shalom. And then it brings up faithfulness, springs up out of the ground, or inside of your mind, inside of your immortal land. And guess what? It's going to increase inside of you. And by doing that, that love and ahab and that peace is going to increase inside of you. And it's going to transform your inner man. And it's going to transform you on the inside. And all your liver, your kidneys, and everything in your body are going to be filtered out, because that's all that's going to be flowing throughout your body. And then your intestines and everything that's inside of you are going to be functioning properly. Your hands and your shoulders ain't going to have no thing. You have no stiffness in your neck. Right? You don't have none of that. Verse 13, righteousness will go before him and make his footsteps a way. What do you mean a way? This is Yeshayahu 35 and 8. Yeshayahu 35 and 8. He said his footsteps going to be a way. It says a highway shall be there, and it shall be called the way of Qdsh. He said his footsteps. Why do you think why did Peter say? Yahusha came and he gave us an example, leaving us his steps. Then what Peter said? Let's go there. Right, we're getting out of here. Right, so this is the book of 1 Peter or 2 Peter. I think it was 1 Peter, 2 Peter. I think it's 1 Peter. 2 Peter chapter 2. 2 Peter chapter 2 verse 20. 2 Peter chapter 2 verse 20. It says, for what credit is it if you sin and be beaten for it, right? That's what happens. And you endure, right? You know how a father and a mother beats you or spanks you, right? He give you a punishment. You get beaten for it. You should be. And you should cry too. You know, I say, I don't want to cry. You ever got a whooping, parents beat you and you didn't cry? You be like, I don't want to cry. You be like, man, you should cry. You should shed a tear. You should be crying and weeping. So you can have that righteous repentance. You know how that righteous repentance? When you don't cry, man, you ain't got that righteous repentance, man. You just like, I'm going to take it like a man. Take it like a G, right? Like they say. But it says right here, but if when you do good and suffer for it, you endure, this is gracious in the sight of Elohim, right? So you're going to have times where you're going to be falsely accused. You're going to have times where people going to slander you and gossip about you. But then you're going to have times where you actually did wrong and evil and you're going to get beaten for it. And rightfully so. But then you're going to have times where you didn't do nothing. But then Yahuwah's steadfast love and his kindness and his righteousness and peace and his kindness and his truth are going to meet. And guess what? You're still going to be fruitful, but you're going to have to bear it, just like many others we read about in the Torah that had to bear it when people falsely accused or things happened to them and it wasn't their fault. You got to do it. Or it says, this is righteous in the sight of Elohim. For to this you have been called, being caught, because Mashiach also suffered for you, leaving you an example so that you may follow his steps. He said, he'll make his steps be a way. His steps. He committed no sin, neither was deceit found in his mouth. The ruach of deceit belongs greed, anger, impudent enthusiasm for appalling acts done in the lustful passion. Like he won't do none of that stuff that you read about in the Dead Sea Scrolls 4Q 257. He committed no sin, neither was deceit found in his mouth. Because he slipped with the tongue. He said your lashon is all wickedness. But his wasn't. It says, when he was reviled, he reviled not back. When people would come out with malicious words and slander and gossip and hatred and jealousy, he reviled not back. He said he did not revile in return. When he suffered, he did not threaten, but continued entrusting himself to him who judged justly. He himself bore our sins in his body on the tree, that we might die to sin and live to righteousness. Because you know what happens? Righteousness and what? And peace are going to kiss each other. So how do you think he gonna come and you gonna marry him and you ain't got righteousness in your heart? You don't even know what righteousness is. So how you gonna, and you ain't got no peace in your heart. So how you gonna be with him in a marriage? I saw a bride adorned for her husband. Verse 5, it says, by his wounds you have been healed. By his wounds, because you can't marry with open wounds. So he said, I'm going to be wounded for you, so your wounds can be healed. So you can look at me and look at my steps and look at what I did. So if you have a broken heart, I have one too. If you never received any love for your bride, I never had one. I never had any love from her either. And I love her more than she loved me. because he had brides, because he had more than one. But you know what happened? He said, if they slander you, they slander me. They gossip, they do. They said the same thing to me. They mock me. They mocked me. He said they mocked me too. They didn't welcome me. They didn't welcome me either. They didn't receive me. He said they didn't receive me either. They didn't dance. When I piped unto them, they didn't dance either. They didn't cry. When I wept, they didn't weep either. Right, so you think about that, right? And it says, by his wounds you have been healed, for you were straying like sheep. Right? He's just talking about animals in farming terms, right? And you ain't no sheep. He's just showing you that farming terms, right? You ain't no sheep. You're in the image and likeness of Yahuwah, right? Every man is made in the image and likeness of Yahuwah. Everybody don't got a moon. Hope and most of all love on the heart. And it says right here, for you were straying like sheep, but you have now returned to the shepherd, the overseer of your soul. Because there's only one shepherd, Yahushua Mashiach. And he said, you are the hired hand to help Yahushua Mashiach with his people. But he's trying to show you that, right? It's the Yeshayahu 35:8, Isaiah 35:8. That's both male and female. Because you know who was a shepherdess? Oh, he's talking about Rakah, right? And he said the women at the well, the one whom your code kissed at the well, that woman? Yeah, he's like, man. And amazingly, he loved her much too. Right, this is Isaiah chapter 35 and verse 8. Isaiah, Yeshayahu 35:8. It says, and a highway shall be there in a way, and it should be called the way of Kudash. Right, why? Because his steps are a way. And unclean, because it's the way of Kudash. That means, way of Kudash means reviling and you not reviling back. The way of Kudash is to suffer the things he suffered. That is the way of Kudash. To keep yourself in a new Kasid, right? Ahaba, Marpeh, Shalom. You gotta have all that in that's a part of the Kudash life. That's his steps. And it says, these are all a part of it. It says, even if they are fools, they shall not go astray. He said, even if you are an evil, wicked person, you know how we talk about the wicked people, the fool with his mouth. Right? We just talked about it. But he said, even when you are a fool, he said, you know what happens to that? He said, they shall not go astray. He said, you ain't gonna go away from this. You ain't go away from Yahushua Mashiach. No lion shall be there, nor shall a ravenous beast come unto it. Satan ain't gonna be around. Satan all not gonna be around. They shall not be found there. He said he ain't gonna be found in him. But the redeemed shall walk there. He said those in his immortal land shall walk. Those who are there. The ransom of Yahuwah shall return and come to Saon with singing. With what? With singing. Everlasting joy shall be upon their heads, and they shall obtain gladness, and simcha, and sorrow, and sighing shall flee away. What's going to happen when it flees away? Right, this is Dead Sea Scrolls. This is Dead Sea Scrolls. Dead Sea Scrolls. Dead Sea Scrolls. This Dead Sea Scrolls 1Q228B, column 1. 1Q28B 1-111, column 1. It says, words of blessing of the instructor, to bless those who fear Elohim, do his commandments, and keep his commandments. Remain constant in the Qahalath covenant, and walk with perfection on the path of his truth. How you say? Of his truth, of his kindness. Like we are in the Aydah Shalom. Because you know, Amath, truth, and what? Meet together. Truth and kindness meet together. And righteousness and peace kiss each other. And their fruit gonna be abundant. Like we just read. But it said right here, those he has chosen for the eternal covenant, for an eternal covenant, his immortal land, which endures forever. May Yahuwah bless you for your Qahalath residence. May he open the eternal spring, which does not dry up for you. He said it don't dry up. Because you know why? He said, I'm going to make your fruits abundant. You need water. How you going to get a famine in the land? Because there ain't no water. But if you got plenty of water, you know what happens after that? Ain't going to be no famine of bread. There ain't going to be no famine of hearing the word of Yahuwah. Never going to happen. Not going to happen. He's like, man, there's a well in here. He's like, yeah, it's a well. It ain't going nowhere. And it says right here, it says, which endure, it says, those who has chosen, it says, yeah. Walk in perfection on the path of truth, those he has chosen for an eternal covenant, which endures forever. May Yahuwah bless you, barak you, for his Qahalath residence. May he open the eternal spring, which does not dry up for you, for from the heavens, it's blank, it says, in your hand. May he be gracious to you in all blessings, right? In your hand. You know what? In your congregation of the Qahalath ones, eternal, right? But, yeah, in the blank stop, right? Here we go. This is Dead Sea Scrolls going over to the end of this. I think it's this one. It's volume 2. Yeah, Dead Sea Scrolls, volume 2. This is the study edition. But this is right here. Dead Sea Scrolls. Here we go. I think this is it. No, we're not gonna go there. Where is it? So, yeah. It's Dead Sea Scrolls. What's this thing called? It's called 11Q19, well, this is 11Q20, 11Q20, XII, or X111, but it says upwards and down, it says, and their cities will be pure and forever, and the city which I will sanctify to make dwell my name and my temple within shall be Qahalath and shall be clean. For any case of whatever impurity in which they could be defiled, everything that is therein, it shall be pure, and everything that goes into it shall be pure. We talked about last week when we talked about New Jerusalem. Nothing undefiled or unclean shall never enter into it. So what else is not going to enter in? Let me show you this. Right? This is another thing that ain't going to get in. Right? So, and people say, there's a reason why all this stuff is written in here. Right? So this is the book of Leviticus, chapter 20, 21, 16. And Yahuwah spake to Moshe, saying, speak to Aharon, saying, none of your offspring throughout their generations who has a blemish may approach to offer the bread of his Elohim. Right? We talked about Darei HaYamim chapter 9, Darei HaYamim chapter 23. First Chronicles 9 and First Chronicles 23, right? Chapter 9. When he's talking about offering the bread and the cakes morning and evening, he said, have a blemish. For no one who has a blemish shall draw near, a man blind or lame, right? That's why Yahushua said, he asked the scribes and the Pharisees in Yuchanan 9:41, he said, they asked, are we blind? He said, if you were blind, you would have no guilt. But being that you say you see, you're a guilty man. It means they're still blind. No blind or lame, right? Or one who has a mutilated face, right? So these are all just carnal things. So think about your Ruach man now. Think about your Ruach man. Any blemishes in your Ruach man? Any blemishes, are you lame in your Ruach man? Can you walk? Are you blind in your Ruach man? It says a limb too long, like you know how these are all physical defects. You know, the outward man perished, but the inward man is renewed day by day. So do you have these in your inward man? Or a man who has an injured foot or an injured hand, right? Do you have this in your inward man? Usually what's on the inside manifests on the outside. So how do you know this? Or a hunchback or a dwarf or a man with a defect in his sight and an itching disease or a scab or crushed testicles, right? All these are a part of what? Blemishes. You say your reproductive organs off. Right? This is what's caused in this world by interacting with things in this world. In the physical reality, you can inherit these from DNA mix-ups. Having more than 46 chromosomes, you got 48, 49, 50 chromosomes now. Right? Where they introduce a new chromosome in your body as soon as you're born. Like you weren't born into peace. Shalom, this is a whole nother example, but you weren't born in peace. They came in and started injecting you with other chromosomes and other organisms before you even came out of the womb. So therefore, they injected in you other chromosomes and other things that entered into your body. You didn't get born into peace. He said you get born into getting shot. To be born into that creates your defects. Right? We see physically, but then you see being born again, immersed into Yahushua, and then you're getting born into people who got all the works of the flesh. And they doing it in your face over and over again, and there is no peace, no shalom, and you have to get away from these things in order for you to change, to filter it out. But it says, or a hunchback or a dwarf, because you know dwarfs were a part. Like, why would you marry a dwarf? A woman who's tall, 6 feet, most beautiful in all of Mizraim, then you marry or beautiful in all of Yasharal, you're gonna marry a dwarf. And then what do you think type of child you're gonna create? We said, why would you marry a dwarf? You know how you know this person is a dwarf? Like we could look at physical nature, but then you gotta look at spiritual nature. He said, why we gotta look at spiritual nature? Right, this is the book of, we could always go here, but this came to my mind. This came into my mind, right? So this is Aleph Yuchanan 1:28. And now little children abide in him. Aleph Yuchanan 1 John 2:28. Now little children abide in him. And when he appears, you may have confidence and not shrink from him in shame at his coming. Why? Because you're a dwarf. He's like, man, you were tall. What happened? You shrunk to a dwarf? He said, man, you're a dwarf. He said you're a lucky charm. He said lucky charms and lead the dishes. Like you went from creating your image and likeness to a leprechaun. Right? And some people be actually practicing the leprechaun. Where's me gold? Right? You love gold and silver more than Yahuwah. Right? You got all that stuff that's supposed to stand the ground, and you look like you short, like a leprechaun. We're talking about in your Ruach man. When he appears, you're gonna shrink from him in shame at his coming. He said, now you can't even offer the bread of his presence. You can't even offer the bread. He's like, man, what happened to you? He said, I done lost some stature, right? But this is the whole point. Right, so this is the book of the Exodus, right? Let me clear that up. But he said right here, Right, so this is the book of Exodus. This is the book of Exodus chapter 4 and verse 10. But Moshe said to Yahuwah, "Oh my Yahuwah, I am not eloquent, either in the past or since you have spoken to your servant. But I am slow of speech and of tongue." Why? Because they did some things to him when he was in the palace with Balaam, and they burned his tongue. But at the same time, he said, "Man, I'm slow in speech and in tongue." Then Yahuwah said to him, "Who has made man's mouth?" Like, anytime you ask Yahuwah something and you start talking about your limitations and what you can't do because of a defect in your physical nature, please don't do that. Right, that's all you got. Don't do it. Then Yahuwah said to him, "Who made man's mouth? Who made him mute and deaf, or seeing, or the blind? Is it not I, Yahuwah?" So when you look at all those defects that people can offer the bread of his presence in the physical form, like the physical nature, right? They couldn't do it naturally. Yahuwah made them that way. But then you see, okay, in your Ruach man, do you have these defects? He said, "Is it not I, Yahuwah? Now therefore go, and I will be with your mouth and teach you what you shall speak." Say what? I'm going to teach you what you shall speak. But he said, "Oh Yahuwah, please send someone else." You know what I'm saying? Please send someone else. Then the anger of Yahuwah was kindled against Moshe and said, "Is not Aharon your brother, the Levite? I know that he can speak well. Behold, he is coming out to meet you. And when he sees you, he will be glad in your heart," right? "You shall speak to him and put the words in his mouth. And I will be with your mouth and with his mouth. And will teach you both what to do." Either way it go, you're going to be taught. Yahuwah not going to let you go out here and just start saying stuff. He's like, no, either way it go. It says that he shall speak for you to the people, and he shall be your mouth, and you shall be as Elohim to him. And taking your hand this staff with which, so do these signs, right? That's all a part of it, right? This is, go back to Yeshayahu 35 and 8. We almost finished. Isaiah 35 and 8. It says, "And a highway shall be there, and it shall be called the way of Kudash. The unclean shall not pass over it, and it shall belong to those who walk on the way." Because his steps going to be the way. "Even if they are fools, they shall not go astray." He said, even the fools, he said, nothing unclean shall go under it, shall enter it, shall go over it, right? All that's a part of it. Right, so this is the book of Revelations, Hazon. Revelation chapter 20. Revelation chapter 20 or 21. Revelation 21 and 25. 21 and 22. "And I saw no temple in the city." Revelation Hazon 21 and 22. "And I saw no temple in the city, for its temple is Yahuwah, the Shadid, and the Lamb. And the city had no need of the sun, the Shamash, and the moon to shine in it. For the Kabbalah of Yahuwah gives light, and its lamp, menorah, is the Lamb." Just like you in the house, you're sitting by yourself, you got a menorah. He said, "I don't need no Shemesh in the yard. I got the menorah right here." That's how you know when the sun, moon, and stars start acting erratic and start obeying Satan like he spoke that they going to. You know how they got? When Satan, Satan, and the moon and the star, everything gonna start obeying when he come down here. They're gonna be listening to him. They be going erratic. You was like, "I don't need that." You see right here, I got a menorah right here. I got the 7 periods. I got the 7 times. I can offer praise without ceasing. My lamp is continually burning. I'm gonna continue to wait for him. Even if the sun go down and stay down for a whole 6 days, 3 days in a row. You know what happened? He said, "I'm still got my menorah lit." it's going to be midnight for 3 days in a row, straight. I got my menorah lit. And if Yahushua come back during that time, I'm not going to fear. That's how the mindset you got to have, right? But it says, but its light will the nations walk, and the kings of the earth will bring their kabod into it. And its gates shall never be shut by day, and there shall be no night there, right? The other Jerusalem, they had to rise, they had to open the gates when the sun rise. He said, ain't gonna be no need for that. They will bring into it the kabod and the honor of the nations. What's the honor of the nations? All their stuff, the riches, but remember they sought after all those things, not the kingdom first, but you did. Verse 27, but nothing unclean will ever enter it. Why? Because it's the way of Kadash. His way is that. Because it's a love, ahab, kasid, ayanu, marpeh, shalom, ahaba. That's what's in the city. Matter of fact, none of those defects can offer any bread in there either. In your Ruach, man. Matter of fact, you can't say your limitations in your physical nature does not even allow you to speak the love and kindness of Yahuwah, right? In the words that he says. You can't even allow it. Right, this is going back to Dead Sea Scrolls. Column, it says 11Q20. 11Q20. And it says, everything that there is in it shall be pure, and everything that goes into it shall be pure. Wine, oil, and all food. That's the kabod of the nation, right? And everything. What was the priest's food? What we need wine and food for? Wine, oil. What do we need wine for? Oil. What's oil? Olive oil. What's that used for? And food. What's the food for? It's fruits, oil, and wine. What's that used for? Grain and barley. What's that used for? He said, as often as you do this, you remember my death and suffering till I come. You remember me. Zakar. He said, Yahuwah gave you a literal token. Yahushua gave you his son gave you a literal token. You know how a woman that's betrothed who gets a gift to let her know that this man betrothed to her? Yahuwah gave you something as a betrothed to make you remember him, that he gonna come here and retrieve you. You know what that is? He said, as often as you do this, you remember me until I come. My death and suffering until I come. You know what his death and suffering represented? His ahaba for you. Because he loved you more than you loved him. He loved you more than you loved him. He said, I love you. He loves me more. He loves me. He loves me now. You know how people pick them flowers and they pick them up. He loves me. They make that little nursery rhyme that people remember. But he said, you ain't got to do that. All you got to do is, as often as you do this, you remember my death and suffering till I come. You'll always remember me. He's like, man, you remember how much love he had for you? He said, yeah. You know what happens right after this? It says, pure wine. Everything, notice that everything shall be pure wine, pure oil, and all food shall be pure, and all drinks shall be pure. Ain't nothing. Yahuwah always about pure. He said, I want the most purest form. He said, you know, I said, I want that pure stuff. I want that defect with 85 different ingredients, with the other triglycerin and glycerine, prophesic, right? All that other, what's the other stuff they put in that stuff? Right? All that, he said, the manganese, all that other crazy stuff they be putting, human behavior modification, lead and poison. I said, I want that stuff. He said, I want the pure stuff. You know, that 1 and 2 ingredient, that thing is potent, right? That's how you know. And it says right here, and you shall drink. And he says, and the drink shall be pure. I want that pure wine. I want that pure grapes. Not them sour grapes. You know them grapes that they have, them little nasty grapes. He said, I want it refined properly, right? That's how you know you. He said, how you think Adam, of course we're not hoping for a long life and length of days. We'd rather have wisdom and Hakmah.
on the inside. But still, you get the pure stuff, you know, the grapes that's sitting by the river of water with the gold in it, getting the nutrients in it, it's sitting there, it's been sitting there, nobody touched it. And you take it, and it's one grape, one bottle of wine, right? Giant trees, right? All that's a part of the world that used to be here. But man's shrinking. You know how we shrinking. They trying to shrink us down. We used to be huge, just by eating one fruit. We used to be way bigger than what we are, right? They make you shrink down by genetically modifying the food to make you shrink down to fit the environment that's taking place in the earth and the shit, because they don't want you to consume everything, because they made this world the way it is, and everybody shouldn't even be living like this. But hey, who knows, right? And it says, and drink shall be pure, and all the hides of pure animals, which it says, slaughter in their cities, they shall not bring into what? What he said. He said, what are they gonna do? For in their city, they shall make with, it says all the hides of pure animals, which they slaughter in their cities, they shall not bring into it. For in their cities they shall make with these hides utensils for all their needs, but they shall not bring them into the city of my temple. Right? So you think Yahuwah, when you come to New Jerusalem, you think you're gonna bring that stuff? He said, you're not coming up in here. I know he said, why he say that? Because he's dead serious. But he says, for their purity shall not be like that of their flesh. Oh, that's why he said in Psalms 50, he said, do I eat flesh? He said, what's wrong with y'all? I don't eat that. He said, if I was hungry, I ain't telling you. Guess what it says? And they shall not defile the city. Say what? Why he say he ain't gonna defile the city? Because that's what he commanded Adam in the beginning. He said, in pain, and it's a bone, you're gonna till the ground, and you're gonna what? You're gonna eat bread to the day of your death. But it said right here, but this is a whole nother subject. Which within I shall make my name my temple, rather with the hides of the animals which they sacrifice in the temple, with these shall they bring into the city, and the temple their wine. Why? Because Yahuwah said, he said, in the midst of the week, I'm going to cause the slaughtering and the milk offerings to cease. So what is he talking about? In Daniel 9:27. But it says right here, in the temple, with these they shall bring into the city of the temple their wine. Right? It says, rather with the hides of animals which they sacrifice, in the temple with these they shall bring into the city. And the temple their wine, their oil, and all their food, they shall not defile my temple in the hides of their profane, slaughtering which they slaughter in their land. And ye shall not consider clean, and you shall not consider clean the hide from the cities for my city, for according to the purity of its flesh, so shall the hides be pure. And if you sacrifice in my temple, it is pure for my temple. And if you slaughter your cities, it is pure for your cities, right? So it's the same thing. That's why you gotta keep your body pure. Everything that you put in your body has to be pure. Tahur. And you gotta be joined to it with a woo. That's why he said, nothing unclean shall enter into it. Nothing defiled. You can't allow that stuff to enter in yourself. But it said right here, if you sacrifice in my temple, it is pure for my temple. And if you slaughter in your cities, it is pure for your cities, not mine. And all purity of the temple you shall bring in the hides of the temple. And you shall not defile my temple, my city, right, with your profane skins, because I dwell in your midst. Why you say
What do you mean by profaning with my skins, man? I wasn't even gonna go here. This is the book of Aramaic Targums. Right? He said, with your skins. Why would he say that? Right, so this is the book, this is Aramaic Targums. Aramaic Targums, chapter 3, and verse. Yeah, here we go. I think that's it. Aramaic Targums, chapter 3. Aramaic Targums, chapter 3, and verse 12. Aramaic Targums, chapter 3, verse 12, Jonathan. And Adam said, the woman you put beside me, she gave me of the fruit of the tree, and I ate. Yahuwah said to the woman, what is this that you have done? Well, remember, nothing unclean, nor unclean or wrong shall enter into your city, into your body. And the woman said, the serpent lured me with his cleverness, and led me astray in his wickedness, and I ate. So we looked at Psalms 37, he talked about the wicked and how their tongue is. They're like poisonous ass. Why? With his wickedness, I ate. I was led astray in his wickedness, and I ate. Right? Then Yahuwah brought the three of them into judgment. Right? We talked about this, and he said to the serpent, because you have done this, cursed are you above all cattle, because he had two witnesses against this man, right? And above all beasts of the field, upon your belly you shall go about, and your feet shall be cut off. And you will be cast off, you will cast off your skin once every 7 years. You know what? Oh, you mean year release? Notice how he say once every 7 years. It's just like the year of Jubilees. You know, the year of Jubilee. Once every 7 years, you cast off your skin, right? Your cells change, you get bigger. He said, you cast off your skin. And people say, what type of skin do we have? He said, your hides, you know, he talk about your hides shall not come in up in here. You know, your hides, you know, the stuff you shed off. Your skin, you know, the things you shed off, once you get rid of stuff off your skin, off of you, you should not, once you circumcise things off of you and things fall off of you, you shouldn't bring it into his city. In Jerusalem and in the light of the city. And it says, your skin once every 7 years, and the poison of death will be in your mouth. Right? That's the wickedness in his tongue. It's gonna be in his mouth. And you shall eat dust all the days of your life. And I will put enmity between you and the woman, between the offspring of your children and the offspring of her children. Right? We got the wickedness versus light versus darkness. And when the children of the woman keep the commandments of the Torah, they will take aim and strike you on your head. But when they forsake the commandments of the Torah, you will take aim and wound them on their heels. He said, you're gonna bite them behind. For them, however, there will be a remedy. There's a remedy. You know, there's a tree for us. You know, there's an herb for us. It's a leaf we can take from, and it brings healing to us. And we eat it. And matter of fact, it speaks real gentle too. Marpe, it'll be healing too. It's a gentle tone. And that gentle tone brings healing to the bite mark of the poison of the serpent. Nakash, right? But for you there will be no remedy, and they are to make peace in the end, huh? They're gonna make peace in the end. And what happens? In the days of King Mashiach. To the woman he said, I will greatly multiply your afflictions and your blood and your virginity, and in pregnancies, in pain you shall bear children. Yet your desire shall be
for your husband, and he shall rule you both for righteousness and for sin. Right, so when you join righteousness, he talks about. We talking about don't go back to folly though. When you say, "Show me your love," you talked about in Psalms. Show me your love. Show me them kindness and that. We did evil to you, but show us your steadfast love, right? But he said, don't go back to folly though, because in righteousness and peace you kissed, and you brought forth children. But don't go back to folly though and sin. But he said for righteousness and sin, right? So righteousness and sin, right? And it says that unto Adam he said, because you have listened to the words of your wife and ate for the tree concerning which I commanded you, saying, you shall not eat of it. Cursed be the earth because it did not show you your guilt. By toil you shall eat of it all the days of your life. Thorns and thistles it shall sprout and produce because of you. And you shall eat the plants that are upon the surface of the field. Adam answered and said, I beseech you by the mercy before you, O Yahuwah, let me not be reckoned before you as cattle, that I should eat grass off the surface of the field. That's why he told Nebuchadnezzar you're going to eat grass in the 7 periods. You notice how he says 7 periods, Nebuchadnezzar is going to eat grass. Then after the 7 periods, he said, Yahuwah rule in the kingdom of men. He gave it to whomever he will. Why? Because he was the serpent. Because he shed his skin after 7 years. And it said right here, by the labor of your hand you shall eat the food until you return to the dust, from which you were created. For dust you are, and dust you will return. But from the dust you are destined to arise, to render an account and a reckoning of all you have done on the great day of judgment. So what's going to save you from the great day of judgment? We just talked about love. How much love did you have in your heart? Because you're going to need it on the day of judgment. You're going to need love in your heart, because Yahuwah is love. And Adam named his wife Kuah, because she was the mother of all human beings. And Yahuwah Elohim made garments of glory, kabod, for Adam and his wife from the skin which the serpent had cast off to be worn on the skins of their flesh, instead of the garments of fingernails which they had been stripped. And he clothed them. He said he clothed them with the serpent had shed off his skin. He clothed them in snake's skin. And he said, whatever your skin shed off, he says, it's going to happen every 7 years. And then if you keep putting pure things into your body, and purity into your body, your temple, your city, what do you think is going to come off of you every 7 years? What's going to come out of you, your inward man, every 7 years? It's going to shed. Things are going to shed off. You're not going to stay the same. There's no way. You can't stay the same. Things start to come off. Things start to be removed from your life, from your heart and your mind, your inward man. And some impurities in your body that allow you to even live a little longer life will come out of your body when you continue to put pure things into your body. And when you continue to do it, pure things sometimes ain't taste that good either. But at the same time, the more you do it, the more things come out. Right? It says, but he said, don't bring that into my city though, in Dead Sea Scrolls. Don't bring that stuff. He said, what you get from your hides, that stuff that be falling off, don't be bringing that stuff back in there, right? Let that stuff fall off and leave it out there. Don't bring that stuff in the city. Don't bring it, right? And it said right here, behold, Adam was alone. It said right here, to be worn instead of fingernails, which they had been stripped, and they clothed him. And Yahuwah Elohim said to the Malachim who ministered before him, behold, Adam was alone on the earth as I am alone, in the Shamayims on high. From him there will arise those who will know how to distinguish between good and evil. The man has become like one of us. You mean like a malakim? Because if you can distinguish between good, ta'ub, and ra, not only within yourself, but also on the outward man in your surrounding area, then guess what you are? You are God. You are Elohim. And he judging Mr. Elohim. And you know who your father is? Yahuwah is your father. He said, and you know what people are going to say about you? Who do you think you are? You saying Yahuwah is your father? You trying to make yourself an Elohim and not even know it. He said, your words testify against you. You know what I said? Your speech betray you. Right? Not even knowing that, right? So they're going back to Dead Sea Scrolls, last couple of things, and we almost finished. Dead Sea Scrolls, going back to column. Going to Dead Sea Scrolls, column 11Q19, 11Q20, and it says right here, verse 15, for my city, for according to the purity of its flesh, so shall the hides be pure. And if you sacrifice in my temple, it is pure for my temple. If you slaughter for my city, it is pure for your city. In all purity of the temple you shall bring in the hides of the temple. And you shall not defile my temple and my city with your profane skins, because I dwell in your midst. And it says right here, column XLV, going down the next one. And its species and of Hupo, right here we go. It says, yeah, no, we're not going there. We're not going that far. Yeah, so here we go. This is column 11Q. This is 11Q20. This page 1269. So here we go. We're going over to skipping down. Yeah, staying right here. It says until the day in the water impure. It says right here. It says, and they shall not eat anything, because the water of the purification mingled with a dead person. They shall become impure no more, until they sprinkle for the second time on the seventh day, and they are pure in the evening at sunset. And every man who is in an open field should come into contact with the bones of the dead person, and or one of the slain with sword, or a corpse, or blood, or a dead person, or any grave, shall purify himself according to the precepts of this regulation. And if he does not purify himself according to the regulation of the law of this Torah, he will be impure. His impurity will stick to him. Because you know dead skin when it fall off. You know when dead skin fall off. And it says, and everyone who comes into contact with him shall wash his clothes and bathe and become pure by the evening. And if a woman is pregnant and her child dies in her womb, and all the days which he is dead within her, she shall be impure like a grave. You know, I talk about their mouths are like an open grave. Have we talked about that? Remember, he says, I'm going to barak your bread and your water, and there'll be no miscarriages in you. Nobody going to lose their children, and their mouth is not going to be an open grave, and they're going to be speaking wickedness out of their mouth. That's what he was talking about. What happened to the water when Yasha, he take salt, he had to sprinkle it in the water, because he said, the city is beautiful. You know how I would say? The city is beautiful, the land is good, but the water is bad. And he said, thus says Yahuwah, this salt, he said, I sprinkle it, let the water be clean. And he threw it in the sun, and the water was clean to that day. But if you ain't got no clean water, how your bread gonna be clean? How your food gonna be pure? How your food gonna be pure? Why do you think it comes? What comes from Yahuwah's throne? We talked about it. Water, rivers, clear as crystal. And you know what happens when that water get on you? Purified. Right? We almost finished. Yeah, we done. It's almost done. And it says, yeah. So
So we going back to this right here. Here we go. Yeah. So yeah. So this right here is So we almost done. 11Q. This 11Q. 11Q. Where we at? Who's that? 11Q20? So I lost my page. Right there too. Oh, where was I? Lost my page. Hold on. So this is this 11Q20. I was there. Sorry, lost my page. Just going back right quick. Not because it's more than once. I just gotta find it back. Yeah, so this is a book of the same thing. Yeah, let's go ahead. I think this is it. Interesting. That's just a very. So hold on for a second. Let me find it. And it says right here. No, yeah, here we go. And it says. I don't know the exact place, but here we go. This we're gonna start reading anyway. Just lost it. Oh, here we go. Interesting. Interesting. But anyway. Yeah, so go back to 11. Let's go here. And it says in the fourth quarter of the day, it says 11Q20. It says in the fourth quarter of the day they shall offer burnt offerings of the first fruit, 12 yearling lambs without blemish, and their offspring and libations according to the regulations of the priest. The first fruit shall be the priest, and they shall eat them in the inner courtyard, and the offering with the bread of the first fruit. And afterwards the people will eat the new bread and the tendrils and the barleys and the concords. This day will be proclaimed Qahalath as eternal precept for their generations, and they shall do no menial work. This is a feast of weeks, right? So that's what we did during the feast of weeks, and you counted what? 7 full weeks. That's like 7 full weeks is just like the Jubilees when you shed your skin, right? Just like you would shed your skin and move to the next phase of how you say the transition, right? It's the same exact thing. But here we go. Yeah, all this stuff. All right, so this is same thing. 11Q. Yeah, 11Q20. Where is this at? Here we go. Here we go, right here. And it says, right here, and it says, the high priest. Yeah, that's not it. 11Q, that's not it either. What happened to it? Here we go. Where is it? I gotta find it again. Because I know I was there. Yeah, here we go. Sorry. This 11Q 20. Yeah, so this 11Q20. It says, for the second time on the seventh day, and they shall are pure in the evening. It says, and any man who
who in the open field comes across bones of a dead person, of one slain by the sword, or a corpse, or a blood of a dead person, or a grave, shall purify himself according to the precept regulation. And if he does not purify himself according to the precept regulation, and if he does not purify himself according to the regulation of the law, he will be impure. His impurity will stick on him, and anyone who comes into contact with him shall wash his clothes and bathe and become pure by the evening. And if a woman is pregnant and her child dies in her womb, then all the days that is within her dead, she shall be impure like a grave. And in the seventh day he shall sprinkle himself a second time, and he shall wash his clothes and bathe. It says, and bathe. And when the sun has set, he shall be pure. And all the utensils, and the clothes, and the skin, and all the products of goat skin, ye shall do according to the regulation of the law. Right, so here we getting there to the point now. And the earthen vessels shall be broken, because they are impure. Right? They are impure, they cannot become pure again forever. Everything that creeps on the ground is impure. The rat, the jabor, and every king of lizard, the wall gecko, and the great lizard, and all the chameleon. Any man who touches them, they are dead, and they shall be impure until the evening. And you shall wash his clothes, and anything on which any of these fall, they shall be dead and be impure. Any articles of wood, garment, or skin, or sackcloth, an article that is used for labor, into water shall be plunged, and it shall be impure until the evening, and then it shall be pure. But you shall smash all the earthen vessels in which all these shall fall. Right? So, yeah, so skipping down. Page 33, fragment 27, fragment 26, 11Q19. And when the sun has set, then he will be pure. It says, and ye shall forewarn the Yasharal of all impurities, and they shall not defile themselves by those of which I told you. You on this mountain, and they shall not defile themselves. I am Yahuwah, who dwell in the midst of the Yasharal. And ye shall sanctify them, and they shall be Kudash, and they shall not make themselves detestable with all those things which I have separated for them as unclean, and they shall be Kudash. Ye shall appoint judges and officers in your gates, and they shall judge the people with true justice, and show no partiality in judgment. Shall not take a bribe, and not pervert justice, for bribes pervert justice and distort the words of the person, and blinds the eyes of the wise. It said, blind the eyes of the wise, and cause great guilt, and defile the house with wickedness of sin. Right. So all that was a part of. All that's a part of some things, right? So this is all that's a part of it, right? So this is Sirach chapter 3, 17 through 23. It says, my son, go on thy business in meekness. Why? Because meekness, right? We talked about Aydah. Meekness allows one to be in a certain state of mind. It's gentle, it's lowly, it's kind, right? So shalt thou be beloved of him that is approved. The greater thou art, the more humble thyself, and thou shalt find favor before Yahuwah. Right? Many are in high places and of renown, but mysteries are revealed unto the meek. Right? It's revealed unto the Aydah, the lowly, the gentle, the meek and the lowly. Right? For the power of Yahuwah is great and honored with the lowly. He's honored with the lowly people. That's where he's actually honored at. He's honored with the lowly people. He's honored with the lowly. Seek not out things that are too hard for thee, neither search for things that are above thy strength. Right? So it can be above you, above your strength. He said, don't seek after these things.
But what is commanded thee, think thereupon with reverence, for it is not needful for thee to see with thine eyes the things that are in secret. It says, that are in secret. And then it also says, be not curious of unnecessary matters, for more things are showed unto thee than men understand. He said, and people understand. Right? Because that's all a part of what? This whole construct of what one needs to know. Right? So this is right here the last thing, and we're finished, right? So this is the book of right, so this is the book of James, chapter 3, verse 13. It says, who is wise and understanding among you? By his good conduct, let him show forth his works in meekness of wisdom, right? So just like Aydah, in meekness of wisdom. But if you have bitter jealousy and selfish ambitions in your heart, do not boast and be false to the truth. This is not the wisdom that comes. This wisdom is not what comes from above, but is earthly, unspiritual, and demonic. Right? For where jealousy and selfish ambitions exist, there will be disorder in every vile practice. But wisdom from above is first pure, right? So we talked about purity. It's first pure. It's peaceable. It is peace. Because you need peace. You should have came in the earth in peace. And you should leave in peace. It's peaceable. It's gentle. It's gentle. It's marpe. It's gentle. And what else it is? Open to reason and full of mercy and good fruits. Why? Because it's of the immortal land. It's of the immortal land. It's impartial and sincere. Why? Because the harvest of righteousness is sown in peace. It's sown in peace. Right? It's sown in peace. That's what happens. It's sown in peace. And by doing it in peace, what happens? By those who make peace. By those who make shalom. Because when you do it in peace, in love, in ahab, what happens? It creates what? It creates love, ahab. It creates Aydah, right? Meekness. It also creates what? Kasi, kindness. And it also creates what? Immortal fruits. And what else does it do? It gives you long life and length of days and years, right? It does, right? This came to my mind. This is Proverbs chapter 3. Proverbs chapter 3 in verse 1. Proverbs chapter 3 verse 1. It says, my son, do not forget my teaching, and let your heart keep my commandments. For length of days and years and life and peace will be added to you. It'll be peace will be added to you. Let not steadfast love and faithfulness forsake you. Because you're going to need ahab. You're going to need to have that faithfulness. And don't let it forsake you. Bind them around your neck. Write them on the tablets of your heart. And you will find favor and good success in the sight of Elohim and man. Trust in Yahuwah with all your heart. And do not lean to your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make straight your paths. Be not wise in your own eyes. Fear Yahuwah and turn away from evil. It will be healing to your flesh, your shore, and refreshment to your bones. Right? So all that's important. So we look at all that. We look at Yahushua Mashiach. We look at the light of life, the true light of life, which is in ahab, love, which is in kasi, in kindness, which is in gentleness, that's marpe, and it's also Aydah, in humbleness and meekness. We look at his life and his understanding and his truth and his way and his fruit and his immortal land. And you may walk in his righteousness, that you may walk in righteousness and you may meet with him and kiss him. But you may meet with him in the truth, a moth, and you may meet with him with kindness and a moth, and you may kiss him with righteousness and peace. And your fruits you may yield forth a fruitful increase within your mind and your heart and your mind. So we look at Yahushua Mashiach, we look at Yahuwah, we look at the true light, the one who made all things, who gives life and understanding to us, who even clothed us,
whoever gave us, he gave us the wisdom and understanding, even he said, wise as a serpent, but gentle as a dove. Knowing that we gotta be wise in Nakash, even as a Nakash, and know our enemy as the enemy of ourselves, but then also they can bite our heel, but also be gentle and be a healing to somebody else in Marpeh. So we look at ourselves, we look at our inward man, we look at our inward being, we look to translate over to that life of understanding, knowing that in the next life, he said, in the Jerusalem above, those who are born from above, one will walk in the light of the city and walk in the light of life, and not yield themselves over to their own imaginations and their own thoughts, but according to the light of life, which is Yahushua Mashiach, which is the manure of New Jerusalem that will appear as a bride adorned for their husband. So we look at Yahushua Mashiach, we look at the mother of all living. He said the mother of all living, the mother, he said Jerusalem above is free as the mother of us all. And when he took the mother priesthood, and he said he left us a mother and a father. And that mother and the father is just the bar, and that's Yahuwah, his commandments, and Jerusalem, and those who come with him, and as a nursing mother, nursing children, and as a father, disciplines his children. So we look at everything that's happened, and we look at everything that's going to happen, and the truth that's been revealed, the Amal that's been revealed, that we may join in kindness, and in righteousness, and in peace, and that all things may yield the increase that it needs within oneself, that our hands and our feet may be clean with pure water, and that we may be clean totally, not just in our hands, but also our feet, that we may wash our feet in our regal, that we may, the bar may be a lamp unto our feet and a light unto our pathway. For the Ayanu, the meek, will inherit the earth. Adatz, the meek will inherit the earth.